Chapter 523. There were 2 chapters in a row. This was the second chapter. You can't even buy it without the deity elixir? What's the use of having you? Chop them all up. Chu Feng ordered unravel. He was incomparably resentful after missing out on the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms. He was in a fit of anger and was ready to attack them. Unravel was surging with killing intent. He really did walk over with his broadsword in hand, because those people had attacked him before. Now, he wanted nothing more than to chop them up. In any case, he was from the demonic Tao and wasn't on good terms with the orthodoxies behind them. Show mercy. Little brother Chu Feng, we can talk things out. Don't be impulsive. On the Origin Beast platform, the families and sects behind them could no longer sit still. They couldn't watch their most powerful descendant be killed. All of them were anxious and angry. Although the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms is mysterious and known as a top-notch combat technique, it's not an exclusive art. It's widely spread throughout the cosmos. Let's go help our little friend buy this secret book and give him some of our predecessors' cultivation experiences. Very good. We can trade for a divine son. You families can discuss among yourselves. Whose child do you want to send away with sky-piercing express? The families were helpless after hearing his cruel words about packing up the divine sons and saintesses. At the same time, they were incomparably furious after hearing that they could only trade for one person. Little brother Chu Feng, although the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms isn't exclusive, its price in the cosmos is frighteningly high. It's easily worth tens of billions. Chu Feng curled his lips and said, I could have collected all the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms, but one of them was destroyed by your child. Now, you're just compensating me. Moreover, I don't want a secret book. I only want the 9th form. Afterward, he began to sell the 5 divine sons and saintesses. He offered a starting price of 2 billion for the divine sons and 4 billion for the saintesses. God damn it. The evolutionary sects with saintesses had the urge to curse out loud. The ransom price was doubled. This isn't fair. An old man was furious. Chu Feng cast a sidelong glance at him and said, What's unfair about it? Look, I've already said that the auction has started, but not a single person has asked about the divine son. However, someone has inquired about the 2 saintesses. It seems like they want to buy them. Heavens, great earth, send down lightning to strike that scoundrel to death. Someone cursed, truly angered to the extreme, truly wishing for nothing more than for Chu Feng to suffer the wrath of heaven. However, Chu Feng waited for a moment, but no one bid. The situation was not good. Brother Chu Feng, it's not that we want to criticize you, but this starting price is too expensive. What's the use of buying a divine son for 2 billion? Even if he recovers to the visualization realm, he won't be considered a top-notch expert. I could spend 2 billion to hire an even more powerful bodyguard, or even a mercenary team. For billion for a holy maiden. I'm sure there are people who want to buy her. After all, she's a rare resource that can't be bought normally. Some people with status want to buy her as a concubine, but it's still too expensive. Most importantly, you're going to sell a lot this time, not just 1 or 2 people. Someone on the Origin Beast platform said thus. Chu Feng was dissatisfied and said, Who said divine sons are worthless? I think everyone's sisters and aunts are potential customers who are interested in bidding. Once these words were spoken, the group of people wanted to tear him apart. This was no different from cursing people. Chu Feng said, I say, everyone, you guys are too male chauvinistic. You could buy a holy maiden, but your female relatives can't buy a divine son? Let me tell you, I won't lower the price today. I'm going to raise it. Then you won't be able to sell it if no one bids, someone said with a laugh. He wasn't in a hurry. Chu Feng saw that the families of the divine sons and saintesses weren't behaving themselves and were urging everyone not to bid. He was immediately furious and said, I've decided to raise the price. Regardless of whether it's a divine son or a holy maiden, they're all 5 billion cosmic dollars each. If no one wants them, I'll chop them off. You want MO? Prepare to chop people up. Hey, you can't do this. Those families immediately became anxious. How could they watch as their divine sons and holy maidens were beheaded? This demon King Chu was definitely targeting them and wanted them to redeem them at a high price. Very good, we've set a precedent. From now on, The divine sons and holy maidens will be 5 billion each. That's the base price, Chu Feng said with surging killing intent. All the families were cursing. As for the captured divine sons and holy maidens, all of them lowered their heads in shame. Zhan He, Li Feng, Ziluan, call for Sky Piercer Express and get ready to mail them, Chu Feng said. Afterward, someone took the initiative to find him and wanted to redeem their family's princess. That was an old imperial uncle from the Great Su's evolutionary dynasty. They were afraid that Chu Feng would cause trouble, so it was better to rescue their niece first. Chu Feng smiled as he looked at Su Jing and said, "Your Highness, what do you think? I've already said that I won't demand an exorbitant price from your family. If they want you to go back, I'll release you immediately as long as they give me 5 or 6 billion cosmic dollars. All right, if you still want to stay and continue searching for opportunities on Earth, I'll protect you in the future if they pay another 2 billion. Su Jing was just like her name. She was very beautiful and elegant, but now her beautiful eyes were shooting out sword beams. She really wanted to kill someone. With the Great Su dynasty as an example, the other evolutionary sects couldn't sit still anymore. They took the initiative to find Chu Feng and wanted to pay the ransom to buy back their divine sons and holy maidens. The old monsters and lechers who originally wanted to participate in the auction were now anxious. They cursed Chu Feng for being a profiteer, and then some people braced themselves to bid. I'm not at ease to exchange dozens of people for cosmic dollars. What if some old Jun Tua egg from the deity race jumps out and uses his influence to freeze my account? Chu Feng wasn't willing to accept cosmic dollars anymore. He told them that he wanted secret manuals and great medicines that he could use in exchange. How about this? I want the second volume of the Worlds in near at hand. If anyone has it, they can take their child back. Chu Feng demanded an exorbitant price. In the end, the group of people exploded after hearing this. Brother Chu Feng, your words are too outrageous. Do you know how much the second volume of the Worlds in near at hand is worth? It's at least 100 billion. Chu Feng was shocked out of his wits. It was only the second volume, yet it was already so expensive? Then what about the follow-up? He was a bit dazed. Then he decided to sell the divine sons and saintesses at a ruthless high price. Brother Chu Feng, you can't be too black-hearted. I still want to buy a saintess, but in the end, your price is already above the ceiling and even above the vault of heaven. How can people compete? You can't be too good, Chu Feng. It's too expensive. The group of old monsters and lechers expressed their resentment. Those evolutionary sects and the families of the divine sons and saintesses were also shouting that it was expensive. Chu Feng thought about it and said, "You all think it's too expensive. How about this? I'll buy 10 people in one go, 5 divine sons and 5 saintesses, in exchange for the second volume of the World's End near at hand." The group of people was speechless after hearing this. Since when could divine sons and saintesses be sold in groups? This was too unreasonable. Earth, Eastern Sea. The captive divine sons and saintesses were all incomparably resentful, ashamed, and resentful. In the outer realm, a group of people was still dissatisfied. The evolutionary sects behind those divine sons and saintesses were even more anxious. Previously, one divine son was 5 billion cosmic dollars. Now it's at least 10 billion. This is too unfair. Chu Feng, you've gone too far. Chu Feng glared at them and said, "That's the price. I can tell you very responsibly that the higher it goes, the more expensive it gets. If you want to redeem them, you should do it as soon as possible. You want MO? Raise your blades. If those 10 people aren't sold, chop them all up. Damn it." Could they still have a pleasant conversation? The group of people cursed incessantly in private. In the end, Chu Feng didn't insist to the end. He allowed the 12 sects to join hands and exchange the second volume of the World's End near at hand for the 12 descendants. Ziluan, register them carefully. Those 12 people will be packed up and sent away in a while, said Chu Feng. The group of captives didn't want to say anything. They only wanted to bite Chu Feng when they saw him. "Everyone, it's fate that we met. You'll be on your way home soon. I'll miss you all." Chu Feng was very enthusiastic. He then sighed emotionally and said, "One day, when I enter the starry skies and walk through the vital stars, I will see that the strongest experts there were all sold by me. Yes, I will definitely feel a sense of accomplishment." After hearing these words, the various divine sons and saintesses couldn't take it anymore and wanted to eat him alive. Oh right, damning Pure Land Sheen Luoyin has a distant cousin, right? Don't sell her by accident. Keep her for now. Later on, I'll have to have a good chat with that daydreaming woman surnamed Qin. Chu Feng warned. Luo Miaoxiang almost fainted after hearing this. On the Origin Beast platform, the special guest Grandpa Luo's beard was curling up as he glared angrily. He really wanted to kill his way to Earth. Brother Chu Feng, it's too tiring for you to sell divine sons and saintesses like this. Let me help you massage your shoulders and legs. It was at this time that the great demoness Zhao Qing appeared. She had a devilish figure and was sexy and enchanting. She walked over gracefully and amorously. "Okay, my whole body is sore." Chu Feng smiled happily and indicated that she could massage his back and shoulders. Then, he continued to sell divine sons and saintesses. Chapter 524. On the big ship, Chu Feng sat on a rattan chair and observed the rest of the captives comfortably before continuing with the auction. Behind him was the mature and charming demoness Zhao Qing. She was around 175 centimeters tall, and her black dress contrasted with her snow-white skin. Her figure was extremely good, with undulating curves that made people gasp in admiration. Zhao Qing had slightly wavy long hair, charming eyes, and fiery red lips. She was exceptionally beautiful, sexy, and flirtatious. She was currently massaging Chu Feng's back and shoulders in a rather professional manner. This made the group of divine sons and saintesses truly speechless. They had been reduced to captives, yet that native heaven's chosen was acting in such a manner. He was enjoying it so much and was even selling them out. How could they endure this? Ziluan glanced at her from time to time and was extremely dissatisfied. She felt that this demoness was too seductive. She was actually massaging Chu Feng's shoulders in front of everyone's eyes. "Oh, little sister, what's with that look in your eyes? Are you jealous of me? Then come and help me." Zhao Qing smiled. Her big eyes were full of life, and her red lips were bewitching as she provoked Ziluan. Shameless. Ziluan's little face was flushed red as she muttered softly and glared at her. Chu Feng turned back and said, "Ziluan, bring that Luo Miaoxiang over. Isn't she the cousin of Qin Luoyin from the Damn and Pure Land? She has to be sold for a high price." Despite her unwillingness, Ziluan still twisted her small waist and walked into the group of captives to bring her out. Luo Miaoxiang's mood was complicated and anxious. She could still smile when she was captured earlier because she wasn't very worried. But now, she was very perturbed. She had a peerless distant cousin, Qin Luoyin. She had entered the Tao through dreams and surpassed her predecessors. At the same time, she was one of the most beautiful women in the starry skies. She ought to be basking in her glory, but now it was giving her a headache. It's said that Qin Luoyin is a proud daughter of heaven and is comparable to the 10 most powerful Tao children. Her status is extremely high, and since you're her cousin, some old monsters might extend their love to you and offer a high price if you're auctioned. Chu Feng smiled faintly. Then he directly told Luo Miaoxiang, "You can contact that cousin of yours. 5 drops of deity elixir." Luo Miaoxiang was immediately anxious. None of the orthodoxies behind so many divine sons and saintesses had been able to offer a drop of deity elixir. Now that it was her turn, Chu Feng was asking for 5 drops. How could this be? In Luo Miaoxiang's opinion, not to mention a distant cousin, even a biological cousin might not agree. "Chu Feng, you've misunderstood our relationship," Luo Miaoxiang explained. She had already noticed that Qin Luoyin had targeted Chu Feng not long ago. She had destroyed the golden invitation in his hand and coldly rejected him, thoroughly offending this demon. That saintess who loves to daydream has a very high status. Presumably, 5 drops of deity elixir are nothing to her. Chu Feng muttered to himself, ignoring her words. At this time, a famous person on the Origin Beast platform was looking for Chu Feng. It was the special guest, Grandpa Luo. He couldn't bear to watch any longer because his granddaughter was about to suffer a calamity. If she was really sold, Grandpa Luo would go crazy. Chu Feng, this old man has something to say. As the saying goes, every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. This has nothing to do with Miaoxiang. If you have any dissatisfaction, you should look for Fairy Qin Luoyin. How should I address you? Grandpa Luo, right? Indeed, this originally had nothing to do with Sanus Miaoxiang, but why did you curse me on the Origin Beast platform? Also, that damn daydreaming girl was arrogant and rude to me. As a matter of fact, I couldn't catch you and that little girl, so I had no choice but to keep your granddaughter here to talk about life's ideals. Grandpa Luo was anxious. In his eyes, Chu Feng was a scoundrel. Something might happen if he really kept him. What do you want in order to let Miaoxiang go? He shouted. Chu Feng smiled and said, First of all, you cursed me. This is a rather regrettable matter. For this, you'll have to praise me every day on the Origin Beast platform. In the starry skies, everyone had an odd expression on their faces. How shameless was this? A notorious human trafficker had to be praised every day, and Grandpa Luo was a special guest. How could he not feel? He had to go against his conscience and praise the person who had kidnapped his granddaughter. Just the thought of it made one want to vomit blood. Moreover, you'll have to pay 5 billion cosmic dollars as a protection fee. What? You want me to pay protection fees? Grandpa Luo asked. Chu Feng nodded calmly and said, That's right, this 5 billion isn't a ransom. It's a protection fee to ensure that your mind won't be stimulated. I'm simply keeping Saintess Luo Miaoxiang here. At most, she'll serve you tea and nothing else. You can't send Miaoxiang back even after paying 5 billion cosmic dollars. Grandpa Luo was anxious. I've already said that 5 billion cosmic dollars is a protection fee, not a ransom. You've gone too far. What will it take for you to let her go? Grandpa Luo asked. I've already said that you and that damn daydreaming girl were too arrogant and rude to me. Now that your problem has been solved, I'll naturally deal with that girl's side. I'll take a step back and ask that Qin girl to apologize to me and give me a drop of deity elixir. Then, I'll hand over 10 billion as a ransom. That's settled. This. Grandpa Luo had a headache. How was he supposed to ask Qin Luoyin? The damming Pure Land was too powerful, and that distant relative status was so high. Was he supposed to accept a threat? Chu Feng sneered and said, You don't need to worry. Just tell that damn girl about this. Whether she's willing to save her cousin or not is up to her. Let her do as she sees fit. At this moment, everyone revealed odd expressions. This was truly a scoundrel. Was Qin Luoyin going to save her or not? If she didn't, she would definitely appear to be inhumane. Even if people didn't say anything, they would have their own thoughts in their hearts. But if she really gave in because of this, she would have to bow her head and apologize to this demon and offer up all kinds of resources. Just the thought of this scene made people speechless. Qin Luoyin entered the Tao through dreams. She was the most outstanding and talented disciple in the history of this orthodoxy and could easily kill people in their dreams. She wasn't the strongest among the younger generation, but she was close enough to be ranked among the top few under the starry skies. In addition, she was also known as the sixth beauty under the starry skies and was extremely famous. She had already made her stance clear. She loathed Chu Feng and deprived him of the right to enter the damning Pure Land. She didn't give him any fortunes or the chance to become Tao companions. In the end, did she have to bow her head and apologize to him now? This was truly difficult to dismount. It wasn't easy to choose between face and kinship. Qin Luoyin had just returned from hell. People guessed that she hadn't paid attention to Chu Feng before and didn't know that her distant cousin had been captured. Otherwise, she would have calmed him down first and wouldn't be so passive. That damn daydreaming girl, do as you see fit. Chu Feng didn't pay any more attention to her after saying this. Everyone was speechless. He kept on calling her a damn girl. He was probably the only one in the entire starry skies who dared to be so disrespectful and indifferent to Qin Luoyin. Then, he waved his hand, and asked Luo Miaoxiang to come forward to massage his back and shoulders with Zhao Qing. Grandpa Luo's eyes were spitting fire. Demon Chu, how can you be like this? I just paid 5 billion cosmic dollars. What more do you want? Isn't this normal? It's just a back massage. Isn't it a waste to have such a great demoness standing there? Chu Feng said. The demoness Zhao Qing's smile was brilliant and incomparably charming. She taught Luo Miaoxiang how to massage his back. Everyone's eyes were glued to the sight. This wasn't an ordinary kind of enjoyment. Extravagant, indulgent, and unbecoming. The proud girl Ziluan muttered resentfully. Her large eyes glanced over, but all she saw were the whites of her eyes. In the starry skies, Elder Qi, who was a special guest with Grandpa Luo, was also worried. He was secretly wiping away his cold sweat because his granddaughter Qi Yu had also been caught. As expected, Chu Feng seemed to have thought of something at this moment. Bring that girl dressed as a man here. Her grandfather also scolded me. Qi Yu was embarrassed and angry. She was like a female leopard with a healthy figure and tan skin. She was very beautiful and possessed a kind of wild beauty. Chu Feng and Elder Qi had a friendly exchange and made him pay a protection fee. Afterward, there was another special guest who praised him on the Origin Beast platform. As for his granddaughter, she was temporarily detained, just like Luo Miaoxiang. Behind Chu Feng, the demoness had gained another disciple. Qi Yu's wild nature was difficult to tame. She was beating Chu Feng's back unwillingly with great force. This old man is so jealous. Little brother Chu Feng, can't you sincerely auction off a few sanuses? Look, in the end, these divine sons and sanuses have all been redeemed by their respective orthodoxies and families. This is a kind of harm to us, the real buyers. An old monster expressed his dissatisfaction. The highest bidder wins. I can only say that you lack sincerity. Chu Feng was calm and unmoved. At this time, Yuan Mo informed him in a low voice that among the divine sons and sanuses, there were people from Penglai and Fangzhong Island as the young island masters of these two secret realms. Chop them up. Chu Feng ordered coldly without even blinking. He didn't want to say much to these two races. Boom. After receiving this order, Yuan Mo had just walked forward when 7 figures leapt out from the blue sea and swooped down to attack the ship. Humph! I've long since sensed someone approaching. So it's you guys. At this time, Chu Feng personally took action. He soared into the air and used the world's near at hand at an inconceivable speed as he faced the 7 experts from Penglai and Fangzhong Island. They wanted to save them, but were blocked. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Chu Feng's fist radiated resplendent light and surged with purple mist, drowning the blue sea. The first person who had rushed over was immediately blown up in midair. Heavens, that's the Eastern Violet Chi fist. At this moment, everyone was shaken, including the legendary guest from the Outer Realms. That was because Chu Feng had just obtained this fist manual and had only read it once. How to use it now? Boom. Following which, the second evolver of the visualization realm was blown up by Chu Feng's fist. Blood rained down in all directions, and the purple mist was vast and mighty. The fist seal was terrifying and possessed an unrivaled stance. Too shocking. He can use it right after obtaining the manual. In the starry skies, everyone's expressions changed. What was a freak? This was it. The Eastern Violet Chi fist was an extremely ancient fist technique. It was exceptionally profound and difficult to learn. It was a true top-notch combat technique, and not many people could successfully cultivate it. However, Chu Feng had just come into contact with it and was already able to use 2 fists. This shocked everyone. At this point, everyone thoroughly understood that Demon Chu was exceptionally extraordinary. He was a heaven-bestowed freak, following which, people saw him continuously brandishing his fists. It was terrifying to the extreme. Purple mist came from the east, and the 7 visualization level experts who had come were all killed by him. Not a single one could escape, and he had only used 11 fists. Chu Feng landed on the deck of a large ship with a glaring purple mist, a rain of light, and a dense purple mist. He sat on a wrought tan chair, his energy aura astonishing. At this moment, beams of light flew out from his eyes. They were like tangible lightning interweaving in the sea, frightening people to their souls. He was like a true demon king. Fang Zhang, Peng Lai's remnant races, I've truly underestimated you. You were able to smoothly send out visualization-level experts because you had the geographical advantage and because you were originally battle servants. Behind him, the demoness Zhao Qing took the initiative to massage his back. At the same time, she instructed Qi Yu and Luo Miaoxiang to attack together. Chu Feng was very satisfied with the Eastern Violet Qi fist. Although he had brandished 11 fists, he had only used 2 moves in total. This ancient fist manual was broad and profound. It was truly a peerless chapter that required careful study. He turned back to look at Zil Wan and Yuan Mo and asked, "Do you know of any materials or secret manuals that can increase one's strength in a short period of time? Let's not talk about the ordinary ones. I only want treasures now." Zil Wan tilted her head, thought for a moment, and said, "Indeed." The demoness was very proactive. She smiled sweetly and rushed to say, "I know." Chapter 5:25. There's such a thing in hell. It's definitely a precious substance that can strengthen one's body and increase one's strength. Great demoness Zhao Qing informed him immediately. She had a smile on her face as she narrated in detail like a dutiful subordinate and maid. This made Zi Luan roll her eyes. This demoness was overly attentive and taking the initiative. Could it be that she really wanted to stay behind and do some messy things with Chu Feng? There's a type of black ant in hell that can eat ferocious Arhut-level birds and beasts. It's extremely terrifying. Zhao Qing informed him that there was a type of divine liquid in that terrifying ant nest. It was said to be refined by those hellish ants, just like how bees collect pollen to make honey. Those hellish ants were even more terrifying. The secret liquid they brewed could strengthen one's body and produce terrifying strength. How powerful are the effects? Chu Feng asked. It's said that after consuming this divine liquid, the strength of one's body and strength will increase by at least 5 times. Think about it. 2 people who were originally evenly matched, but one of them consumes the divine liquid brewed by the hellish ants. When they fight again, the balance will definitely be seriously unbalanced. Chu Feng listened and nodded seriously. Naturally, he knew what it meant to have one's body and strength increase by several times. This was equivalent to an additional evolution. Very good. Chu Feng nodded. For many years, a few beings determined to walk the path of the strongest wouldn't miss out on the hellish ant elixir. So much so that the geniuses nurtured by the top-ranked orthodoxies, such as the damning Pure Land and the deity race, must consume this divine elixir. This is an indispensable step. Chu Feng frowned. There were many methods for top-notch races to nurture their descendants. He had only heard of such a precious substance, but it was a necessity for the top 10. What else? He continued to ask. Zhao Qing said, "Naturally, there are other divine items. It's just that they're too rare. It's hard to see them for many years, such as the Origin Magnetic Sacred Fruit, the 9 Orifices Tribulation Flower, and the Myriad Stargrass." Chu Feng frowned after hearing this. The things she mentioned were too heaven-defying. Under normal circumstances, it was simply impossible to find them. That was because he had heard Yao Yao mention that these divine substances were effective for Yao Yao's resurrection. They were necessary items. Then, he asked Yuan Mo and Zi Luan to add more. In the end, the rare materials mentioned were all about the same. In summary, with Chu Feng's current level, there weren't many things he could buy on the black market. The only things he could buy were the hellish ant elixir and the Gabi honey. Then, in the following auctions, the descendants of the various divine sons and saintesses had a hard time. This was because Chu Feng clearly stated that he wanted the hellish ant elixir and pushed out 10 people in one go. The sects and families behind those 10 felt dizzy on the spot. The hellish ant elixir was too rare and precious, and it was extremely difficult to collect. It fed on golden Arhut-level creatures, and they were densely packed together. They were incomparably powerful, and it was very difficult to enter their nest to steal it. There is even a rumor that some particularly powerful queen ants could even eat saints. Not long ago, Qin Luoyin had just returned from hell. Why? It was to personally search for fortuitous encounters and obtain the hellish ant elixir. Of course, she had a protector by her side. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for her to succeed. One could imagine that even an orthodoxy like the Damung Pure Land didn't have much hellish ant elixir in reserve. Naturally, it was exceptionally precious. In a sense, the hellish ant elixir wasn't inferior to the deity elixir, and their prices were similar. As long as a genius wanted to be unrivaled in the same realm, they wouldn't miss out on the hellish ant elixir. 10 divine sons and saintesses in exchange for 10 drops of hellish ant elixir. What do you think? Chu Feng asked. In the starry skies, the sects and families of the divine sons and saintesses had incomparably ugly expressions. This was somewhat difficult to accept. Even if they were to spend a huge sum of money to buy it in the universe's black market, they might not necessarily be able to buy it. 1 drop of hellish ant elixir is enough to baptize a genius physical body. They might not be able to endure too much. The great demoness Zhao Qing reminded Chu Feng. Chu Feng nodded, but he really wanted to stock up on a few drops. However, those orthodoxies obviously wouldn't agree. 1 drop could increase a person's physical body and strength by several times, and their combat strength would soar. This was a rare and precious substance that was said to be priceless. Little friend, you must know that the hellish ant elixir is very difficult to purchase. Those who hunt it down usually won't sell it. It's as rare as the deity elixir. Yes, Brother Chu Feng, it's difficult for your predecessors. If we really want to trade, we're only confident in finding 1 drop. Not long ago, a saint died. A powerful ant queen killed the saint and devoured his blood, causing the hellish ant elixir to become more and more expensive. 1 drop? Impossible. Chu Feng shook his head. However, he sighed in the end. He hadn't even gotten 1 drop of deity elixir. It was indeed difficult to obtain 10 drops of hellish ant elixir of the same level. Someone sighed. 2 drops, that's all we have. This thing isn't easy to preserve, and no one keeps it. Whoever gets it will use it immediately to increase their strength. Then they expressed that they were willing to give up some cosmic dollars. This was because they really didn't have any more hellish ant elixir. They had already asked the universe's black market, but there was no supply in the near future. Chu Feng could see that this was really their limit. Fine, 2 drops of hellish ant and 50 billion cosmic dollars as compensation. Chu Feng was demanding an exorbitant price. This was a one-off deal, and he had long since offended them. You are ruthless. Some of the old monsters from the orthodoxies wanted a curse. As for the 10 divine sons and saintesses, they were even more ashamed. Why had they come to Earth? They had actually been sold back to their homeworld. This was too shameful. Next, Chu Feng pushed out 10 more divine sons and saintesses and asked for the hellish ant elixir from the powers behind them. In the end, they reached an agreement, and the conditions were similar to the previous group. What a pity. I've unknowingly sold dozens of people. There aren't many left. Chu Feng shook his head. Then he sighed. Divine sons and saintesses only regret not having enough when they're needed. These words were transmitted to the starry skies, causing a group of people to curse. It was said that only when they were needed would they regret not having enough. His words made people want to beat him up. In reality, Chu Feng wasn't mocking the crowd. He was completely serious. As he saw it, divine sons and saintesses were hard currency. He said to himself, should I keep some divine sons and saintesses? This kind of hard currency is even better than cosmic dollars. The group was speechless, and the related parties wanted to kill him. What followed was also very lively. Chu Feng sold the remaining divine sons and saintesses. In the end, he didn't keep too much hard currency. Wormhole Express. 3 days later, Chu Feng contacted this mysterious wormhole company and prepared to deliver the goods. That was because he had received some payment in succession. At the same time, if there were any problems, the Origin Beast platform would vouch for them. Chu Feng chose an island in the eastern sea and found a folded space. That was because the wormhole opened by the Wormhole Express could only reach those places and couldn't set foot in Earth's main space. In the depths of the island, within the folded space. This time, a wormhole opened up and a box made of special material appeared. In name, it was an escape capsule, but in fact, it was a packing box for the Divine Sons and Saintesses. Brother, have a safe journey. Within the folded space, Chu Feng saw them off one by one. Now, he patted the shoulder of a Divine Son and said, "Take care." Those who didn't know better would think that the two had deep feelings for each other. In the end, the next step was to stuff the Divine Son into the packing box and seal it. "Continue," Chu Feng said. On the side, Zhil Wan was placing orders and using her photon computer to fill in the addresses and coordinates of the Divine Sons and Saintesses to be mailed. Li Feng acted as her assistant and was seriously proofreading. That was because if they were to be mailed wrongly, someone would die. The next person was a saintess with a bitter expression. She was angry but didn't dare to say anything in front of Chu Feng. Now, she was about to be sent back to her hometown. This made her feel ashamed. She was a saintess from a certain high-ranking planet, but she had suffered a setback here. It was too depressing. "Sister, be happy. You're going home. This is a happy occasion. I'll miss you." Chu Feng comforted her. He was very attentive as he helped the saintess into the tin can. After the saintess had been mailed away, Chu Feng shouted, "Continue." Next, it was another Divine Son's turn. Chu Feng looked into his eyes and said, "Brother, if we meet again in the future, I'll treat you to a drink. I'm looking forward to the day when I meet an old friend in a foreign land." F***CK, your grandpa. This Divine Son wanted to curse out loud, but he hadn't left yet. It wasn't safe, so he could only endure. He said in a low voice, "It's best if we don't meet again in this lifetime." People discovered that Chu Feng was sending them off one by one. His words were different each time, and his expression was sincere. Those who didn't know better might even think that he was reluctant to part. "Sister, you're called Li Miao, right? Actually, I really don't want to sell you. I originally wanted to leave behind a beautiful story, but the situation forced me to do so. Take care. I'll go to the starry sky to visit you in the future. Brother, go back and cultivate well. Strive to become the #1 expert on your planet. If I go to find you in the future, I'll have phase 2. Just like that, Chu Feng sent off dozens of people. He exhorted and exhorted them many times and was extremely enthusiastic. Afterward, when it was Princess Su Jing of the Great Su Dynasty's turn, Chu Feng was even more earnest. He said, "Your Highness, if you need anything in the future, don't hesitate to look for me. For example, if you want to become an empress, I'll lend you a hand." Su Jing glared at him fiercely and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Then go on your way." Chu Feng wanted to stuff her into the escape pod right away. "You remembered wrong. I'm not going back. I choose to stay on Earth." Su Jing hurriedly shouted. This bastard was too hateful. Just now, he was sending her off warmly, and now he wanted to stuff her into a tin can. The Great Su Dynasty paid an extra protection fee for Princess Su to stay, Ziluan reminded. "Sorry, I remembered wrong. Your Highness, this way please. You're free now." Chu Feng let Su Jing go. Then, Fu Huang also chose to stay and pay an extra protection fee. At this point, the grand auction of the Divine Sons and Saintesses came to an end. The great demoness, Zhao Qing, was still beside Chu Feng. She had chosen to stay, while Luo Miaoxiang and Qi were temporarily detained by Chu Feng. "You guys cultivate on the sea for the time being. I'm going to visit a friend." Chu Feng suddenly dived into the sea and headed toward the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace to find the dragoness. After seeing the dragoness again, Chu Feng stuffed a few golden snake fruits into her hands and said, "I'm going into seclusion in the true dragon lair." The dragoness felt the power of the golden snake fruits and was exceptionally happy. She was very grateful to Chu Feng. This kind of thing was worth 100 million cosmic dollars in the starry sky and had astonishing effects on the purification of the bloodline of the snake race. "I'll take you there." The dragoness led the way. In the end, Chu Feng entered the true dragon lair. He was going to practice his fist techniques here and consume the hellish elixir before starting his seclusion. Chapter 526. Chu Feng saw even more clearly after arriving at the underwater secret realm once again. The true dragon's lair was indeed unfathomable. Even now, it would be difficult for him to charge in. In the depths of the ruins, there were patches of lightning-struck wood. Draconic energy gushed out from within the natural cave, creating an extraordinary scene. The dragoness had long since left, leaving only Chu Feng standing here. He gazed attentively with his fiery eyes shooting out golden beams of light. His heart was somewhat excited. Within the mysterious cave, there was a small tree with a dragon's head and horn. It was like a young dragon hatching and growing slowly over the years. It was hazy but very real. That was the dragon embryo tree. Additionally, there were beautiful flowers with dazzling petals. Each one was like a dragon scale and grew upside down. This was the reverse scale flower. Some of the flower buds were as red as blood, others were surging with purple energy, and some were as dazzling as gold. Good stuff. Chu Feng sighed. Although he was tempted, he didn't force his way in because he knew the ins and outs of this place. Back in the day, a domain master had come here with great ambitions. But in the end, he regretted it for the rest of his life because he couldn't seize the fortunes here. And now, Chu Feng was also a domain master. He might die if he were to forcefully seize the fortunes. As for the lightning-struck wood and dragon blood grass outside the lair, he could take some away. I can't run away in the end. As my attainments in the field of domains increase, this will be my place of rebirth. Chu Feng revealed a resolute expression. Back in the day, that domain master had come here not to pick herbs, but to try to construct a special domain to nourish himself and achieve a super evolution. This wasn't a baseless rumor. There was an actual example. A domain genius had once laid down a world-shocking nurturing ground. He used 18 different domains to construct an area with shockingly dense life energy and strengthened an abandoned ancient phoenix lair. In the end, that person stayed in the phoenix lair and achieved several great evolutions. In the end, he became a shockingly powerful expert of the generation. This kind of evolution was quite odd. Instead of devouring mutant fruits, he devoured mountains and rivers. His boldness was even greater, and of course, he also borrowed the phoenix lair's rebirth ability. The true dragon's lair naturally possessed special divine abilities and secret powers. Back then, the domain master had set his eyes on this place, but unfortunately, he wasn't capable enough and wasn't able to make use of it. Chu Feng was confident that he could set it up here when his attainments and domains had deepened one day. This place would become the place where he would rise to power. I won't think about it for now. Chu Feng's will was firm, and he quickly calmed himself down. Then, he began to cultivate here. His harvest from the opening of the East Sea cave this time was too abundant. He was the final winner, and this was worth celebrating. With some rare resources in hand, he naturally hoped to transform them into his own strength as soon as possible. Otherwise, everything else would be for naught. The East Rising Purple Chief Fist, as a very ancient fist technique of this land, had once again seen the light of day. Chu Feng was filled with joy and anticipation. He had already learned that this was a supreme combat technique. Right now, he was deducing it, performing it over and over again. He was trying to figure out, pondering and researching it seriously. Not long after, the purple gas was so dense that it couldn't be dispersed. It completely submerged him and the surrounding terrain, as if a large expanse of clouds and mist had covered this area. Bang! Boom! Very soon, a loud sound was heard. It was as if 1,000 layers of waves were striking the sky, or as if a mountain had suddenly exploded. The sound was deafening. In the field, Chu Feng was glowing amidst the purple mist. His fists were as white as jade as he displayed them, but they were smashing into the void and causing it to explode without end. Then, the place became quiet again. He was still brandishing his fists, but his movements slowed down and sometimes even stopped. For an entire 2 days and 2 nights, Chu Feng was researching this fist technique. He had forgotten everything else as he stared at the stone tablet. There was only this ancient fist technique recorded in his mind. In the end, he let out a long breath and stopped. He had understood the grand fist intent, but to truly understand it thoroughly and reach great heights required actual combat. He needed to analyze it a step further. Then, he ate a golden snake fruit. He felt a power originating from his bloodline, but the effect wasn't that great. Chu Feng nodded. There were 2 reasons for this. First, everyone knew that this had great benefits for the snake race's bloodline purification. It wasn't so obvious for other races. Second, Yao Yao had said that he was a pure-blooded descendant and should have reverted to his ancestry. It seems it's better to sell the golden snake fruit or exchange it for other mutant fruits. Then, Chu Feng began to practice the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms. It just so happened that he had a large white flag on him. It was a weapon he had seized from a Shilin clan genius. This weapon looked like a heavy weapon, but it was actually very light. That was because it was used in conjunction with spiritual arts. Although it was very light, it was indeed sharp. When Chu Feng brandished it, it was like a silver river pouring down in torrents and enveloping the void. It was surging with murderous intent and extremely splendid. The Heavenly Halberd 9 forms is truly extraordinary. It's simply not a martial art of the human world. Chu Feng sighed. No wonder there were rumors that the vermilion bird ancient ancestor had mastered the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms and swept through half the universe. During that era, he was known as an unrivaled divine bird of his generation. Those families in the starry skies had already fulfilled Chu Feng's request and helped him complete the 9th form. Now, Chu Feng was displaying them one by one. The halberd drew a mysterious trajectory, and each form was accompanied by complex divine text annotations. If one were to study them in detail, they would see myriad changes. Anyone who thought it was only 9 forms would be gravely mistaken. The 9 fixed forms had to be accompanied by all kinds of blossoming symbols in order to develop limitless possibilities. Chu Feng was immersed within and only stopped after studying for 2 days and 2 nights. He memorized the myriad changes, and his mind was filled with all kinds of mysterious symbols corresponding to the halberd. He still needed to test it out in actual combat. Moreover, 2 days and 2 nights weren't enough to thoroughly study this kind of secret book. He knew that there would be no lack of battles to come. Now that he had planted the seeds of the Eastern Violet Chi Fist and the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms, the 2 secret arts would shine in heat when he clashed with the young god's troops. They would mature through the tempering of blood and fire. Then, Chu Feng took out a piece of jade. It was sparkling and translucent, and within it was sealed a drop of black liquid. This was the hellish ant elixir, which could strengthen one's constitution. Chu Feng definitely wouldn't be stingy with such a beneficial substance. After studying the Fist Manual and the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms, he crushed the jade and swallowed the drop of liquid that was glowing like a black sun. The taste wasn't very good. It was somewhat astringent and bitter. However, the hellish ant elixir was astonishingly effective. Within a single breath, Chu Feng's body erupted with a dazzling black light. His entire body had turned as black as ink. Moreover, an extremely terrifying creature had appeared within the black light. It was precisely the hellish ant elixir. That was their imprint, and it seemed as though it had materialized. Afterwards, the black light rushed forth and baptized Chu Feng's flesh and blood, his organs, and even his bone marrow. Chu Feng's body trembled incessantly. That was because his metabolism was too fast. It was somewhat terrifying. Sweat flowed continuously as mucus flowed out from his pores. His cells were becoming more active. At this moment, he felt his body becoming sore and then in intense pain. His constitution was beginning to improve. His body trembled and his bones emitted metallic sounds. Chu Feng circulated his breathing technique in order to coordinate with these changes. He wanted to make himself stronger. The hellish ant elixir was extremely extraordinary. It could stimulate the primal activity within the body and cause intense transformations. In the end, when everything stopped, the black light on Chu Feng's body faded away. His body became increasingly white and suffused with a layer of gentle and precious splendor. My strength and physical strength have increased by 6 times. It's indeed miraculous. Chu Feng sighed in admiration. He didn't stop there. Instead, he drank a second drop of the hellish ant elixir. The black light once again enveloped him like a demonic god standing within a black sun. Unfortunately, although it was effective this time, the increase wasn't as obvious. The 2 drops of hellish ant elixir together increased his physical strength and strength by 7 times. It seems this is the only way at this stage, Chu Feng muttered to himself. No wonder 1 drop of hellish ant elixir was enough. It seemed that it was indeed the case. Chu Feng didn't stay for long and directly exited. With a splash, he drilled out of the sea, stirring up a large splash. Afterwards, he felt the atmosphere in the entire eastern sea become somewhat tense. That was because some problems had occurred in the outside world during the 4 days he had disappeared. Some people from the outer realms had arrived, and many troops had also arrived from the star passages. They were all lacking the final resolution and were ready to cross over at any time. Many of the native entities were quite apprehensive. In the outer realms, there was a beautiful woman in white. Her hair wasn't long and only reached her snow-white neck. She possessed a tranquil and calm temperament as she strode through the space outside Earth. Void golden lotuses would appear with every step she took. Those were energy forms. As she strode through the gloomy outer space, the golden lotuses swayed and sprinkled down golden light. She wasn't alone. There was a group of people following behind her, and she was the leader. When will the demon hunting begin? She muttered to herself in the universal language. Without photon computers, the beings on Earth wouldn't be able to understand even if they met face to face. In truth, her group wasn't the first to arrive. There were others. For instance, there was a young man in the distance who looked like a Taoist priest. He looked to be in his 20s, but his eyes were deep and full of vicissitudes. His entire body was golden. At the same time, there was a group of people following behind this young Taoist priest. All of them possessed extraordinary strength. At this time, a girl in blue walked over with a group of people behind her. She smiled and said, "A golden Arhut-level character is leading us. We've come with so many people, but can we really enter this planet's main space?" These were people from some famous orthodoxies in the cosmos. They all came from high-ranking planets. Their divine sons and saintesses have been captured and sold off by Chu Feng. In the end, every family paid a huge ransom in exchange for their direct descendants. But how could they accept being extorted like this? Now, some powers had joined forces and dispatched a large number of people led by Golden Arhut-level experts to descend on Earth. Don't worry, there'll be a chance to enter Earth's main space. Just wait patiently. At this time, a young man with fluttering golden hair spoke. He stood outside Earth with his hands behind his back. His eyes were like lightning, and a group of people followed behind him. Batch after batch of people arrived. There were over 100 teams, and each team had at least 20 to 30 people. They weren't all from the sects of the kidnapped, divine sons, and saintesses. There were also many interstellar hunters and mercenaries. The composition was complicated. Chapter 5:27. There's no rush. I believe the saints in the starry skies are correct in their deductions. We'll have a chance to enter the main space of this planet. Someone nodded with a confident smile. Recently, some sages in the depths of the starry skies had come to a conclusion. After so many years, the operation of the domains on Earth could no longer be as accurate. This was related to the starry skies and the power of time. Just like a mechanical watch, it was accurate in the beginning, but errors would appear one day. This was unavoidable. Too much time had passed since ancient times, and many great battles had occurred. The domain mechanical watch on this planet was now flawed and no longer accurate. Some sages guessed that there would be gaps in some regions of the Earth's domains every few decades. At that time, one could charge into the Earth's main space immediately. However, the gaps were very small and didn't allow powerful beings to charge in. The limit was golden Arhut level evolvers. Moreover, this time was very short and fleeting. At the same time, even if one successfully smuggled in, it would be extremely dangerous in the Earth's main space. That was because the Earths will had gradually awakened and would correct the errors. Hence, one couldn't stay for long even if they were to successfully descend. They had to leave as soon as possible. Although the time was limited, it was enough for a golden Arhut level evolver to do a lot of things. For instance, kill Chufeng. In the starry skies, some orthodoxies hated him to the core. They wouldn't let him live if they had the chance. Naturally, it was impossible for so many people to come just to kill Chufeng. If they wanted to kill him, a golden Arhut level evolver was enough. At present, at least dozens of orthodoxies had dispatched troops, including some famous interstellar hunters and even cosmic mercenaries. It wasn't as simple as killing Chufeng. They wanted to grasp this fleeting opportunity to charge into Earth and seize its fortunes. At this level, the leaders were all golden Arhats. In the eyes of ordinary evolvers, they were already considered powerhouses. It was too easy for them to do certain things. The space outside of Earth gradually quieted down. Each group occupied a region and waited for the gap to appear. It was reported that it would appear in a few days or a few months at most. At this time, almost all of the leaders were holding some ancient maps in their hands. They had spent a lot of money to purchase these maps. The imperial courts, evolutionary sacred grounds, and underwater caves of the glorious ancient era were all marked on the map. They were studying them because their time in Earth was bound to be very short, so they had to choose a good target. When the time came, they would use the strength of a golden Arhut to quickly break the restriction and directly plunder the fortune of the land. He needed to end the battle quickly. Time was limited. In the universe, there were still teams rushing over. There were interstellar hunters, experts from the Holy Lands, as well as great bandits wandering in the starry skies. The composition was complicated. However, each team had as few as 20 to 30 people, and as many as no more than 100 people. This was because the cost of traveling across the universe was very high. Wormholes were charged based on the number of people who used them. This industry was almost monopolized by the Wormhole Express Company. Some of the more powerful orthodoxies also had such techniques, but they were ultimately not professional enough. For example, ensuring the absolute safety of the route, avoiding the attack area of the cosmic beasts, and the issues of time and cost involved. At this rate, densely packed creatures were bound to appear outside Earth, and teams would rush over from time to time. There was only a small group of people who truly wanted to kill Chufeng. 90% of them wanted to seize the opportunity. Earth, Eastern Sea. Chufeng was feeling the pressure. He was walking in the sea, frowning as he read the various messages on his photon computer. It would be absolutely terrible if a golden Arhut level evolver were to come in. The water rippled as Chufeng found Yuan Mo, Zilwan, and the others. He then jumped onto the multicolored ship. Zilwan immediately reported to Chufeng that Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu wanted to escape and even bribed them. However, Qi and Yuan Mo refused and captured them. When are you going to remove the profound magnetic needles from our bodies? Zilwan had a bitter look on her face. It wasn't that she didn't want to escape, but she was afraid that the profound magnetic needles in her body would explode. It had only been a few days, but she already felt that something was wrong. Some parts of her body were aching, which meant that Chufeng wasn't trying to scare her. As long as she left him, the profound magnetic needles might flare up. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chufeng extracted some of the profound magnetic needles from Zilwan and Yuan Mo as a reward. Then he gave the two of them several golden snake fruits and a black jade bottle to each of them. Heavenly Flame Elixir. Zilwan was pleasantly surprised. This item was extremely valuable and extremely beneficial for cultivating secret arts. It could shorten the time needed and nourish the body after absorption. Yuan Mo was surprised. He hadn't expected Chufeng to give them the Heavenly Flame Elixir. On the side, Zhang He and Li Feng looked on anxiously. They indeed wanted it, but were too embarrassed to ask. Wouldn't that be lowering their heads to this demon? In short, the two couldn't put down their pride. Some people want to escape, but you two didn't stop them. There's no need to think about the heavenly flame elixir, Chu Feng said. Zhang He and Li Feng were incomparably disappointed and somewhat regretful. Afterward, the demoness Zhao Qing couldn't take it anymore. She was enchanting and asked Chu Feng for credit. She was the first to notice that the two wanted to escape and then informed Zilwan. Not far away, Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu were both pale and furious. They stared at Zhao Qing and felt betrayed. Their beautiful eyes were spewing fire. Zhao Qing said disdainfully, "What are you staring at? You two secretly discussed taking me with you and then leaving me behind to attract the pursuers. Don't think I don't know." Chu Feng revealed a smile after hearing this, and also gave Zhao Qing a bottle of heavenly flame elixir as a reward. The demoness immediately smiled sweetly and became even more charming. Her slender figure swayed as she walked over gracefully to massage Chu Feng's back. As for you two, Chu Feng looked at Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu and said, "Tell your families to prepare 1 billion cosmic dollars each." The two turned pale. They had already paid a protection fee to be detained here. Now they had to collect more? This demon was too despicable and lacked morals. In the starry skies, Grandpa Luo and Grandpa Qi's hearts were dripping blood after hearing the news. Demon King Zhao's granddaughter was making money. It had only been a few days, and she had obtained an astonishing bottle of heavenly flame elixir. Yet their granddaughter was asking them to pay a protection fee again and again. At first, the two were angry and wanted to be unyielding. But the demon shamelessly told them in private that if they didn't pay, he would wait to see their granddaughter's artistic photos. He promised to broadcast them live on the Origin Beast platform. The two old men's faces immediately turned green. What artistic photos? Bullshit. The two knew that the little demon wanted to sell photo albums. That was because the demon had previously said that he could sell divine sons, saintesses, and photo albums. Miaoxiang, don't run if you don't have a good opportunity. Grandpa doesn't have much money left in his coffin, Grandpa Luo warned weakly. Grandpa Qi also warned his granddaughter to stay calm and not run away in a hurry. Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu wanted to vomit blood after hearing such warnings. Was this really their grandpa? Was he not letting them escape just to save cosmic dollars? Grandpa, what's the meaning of this? You're actually advising us not to run? Are you even his biological daughter? Are you going to sell me to this demon for some worldly possessions? The two girls were indignant. Don't speak nonsense. Miaoxiang, I've already contacted the damning Pure Land. We'll wait for your distant cousin Qin Luoyin to come out of seclusion. Stay calm for now. If you run away again, your grandpa's coffin will be completely spent. Grandpa Luo was in low spirits. He had no choice but to bleed profusely this time. Afterward, Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu's treatment on the multicolored ship dropped rapidly. They no longer needed to massage Chu Feng's back and were given leg massages instead. At the same time, they were in charge of boiling water for Chu Feng's bath. The two couldn't take it anymore. As saintesses of their respective races, they could be considered the proud daughters of heaven on their respective planets. But after arriving on Earth, they had become slaves. Qi was dissatisfied and said angrily, "Chu Feng, you've gone too far. How dare you bully us like this? You have to know that Miaoxiang's cousin is Qin Luoyin. You can't do this for her sake." Chu Feng was very calm and said, "I wouldn't order you around if you weren't Qin Luoyin's cousin. Go, bring me some water to wash my feet." The two girls shrieked. This was truly unbearable. He still had to bring water to wash his feet? In truth, Chu Feng was using the heavenly flame elixir to cultivate. Sometimes he would smear it all over his body, and sometimes he would soak his feet to absorb its essence. This thing was indeed extraordinary. After smearing the heavenly flame elixir on his body, there was a burning sensation. However, it made his nerves react faster and his mind sharper. The effects were extraordinary when cultivating secret arts. Additionally, The heavenly flame elixir contained substances that nourished the body. It couldn't compare to the hellish elixir, but it was still pretty good. In just one day, his constitution had increased by around 15%. Chu Feng drew in a breath of cold air. No wonder Ziluan was excited and Yuan Mo was pleasantly surprised. This thing was truly extraordinary. He carefully looked it up on the photon computer. The heavenly flame elixir was priceless and could even be used by golden Arhut level evolvers. It could help in cultivating secret arts and also nourish the body. At most, it could increase one's constitution by around 30%. This was a permanent increase. As long as one didn't surpass the golden Arhut level, it was suitable for all evolvers. Chu Feng realized that he had almost overlooked the heavenly flame elixir because its effects were too astonishing. This was definitely a rare mineral medicine. To be able to increase one's constitution by 30% was an extraordinary achievement for evolvers. Chu Feng checked the price and found that it was indeed a sky-high price. A portion of the heavenly flame elixir was worth 5 billion cosmic dollars. The key was that he had obtained a lot this time. Added together, there was a small pond of it. There were at least 50 portions, if not 100. This is even more profitable than selling divine sons and saintesses. Chu Feng was in a daze. He had truly been negligent. When Luo Miaoxiang and Qiyu braced themselves and followed Ziluan's instructions in grief and indignation to help Chu Feng wash his feet, their eyes immediately went wide. This black jade basin was actually filled with a scarlet liquid, the heavenly flame elixir. Be careful when you walk. You're about to bump into me. Chu Feng reminded them to express his dissatisfaction. He indicated that they could put down the basin and sat there, preparing to soak his feet. The two girls watched on anxiously. They really wanted to say that this was a reckless waste of natural resources. One portion of the heavenly flame elixir had to be used 8 to 10 times. In order to fully absorb the medicinal effects, he had to carefully apply it to his body and was incomparably thrifty. But what did they see before their eyes? This fellow was using 3 portions at once. God damn it, they really wanted to curse out loud. He was actually using it to soak his feet. Saintesses, do my feet look good? Chu Feng dangled his feet and revealed them amidst the scarlet liquid. He wasn't completely narcissistic. They were indeed sparkling like pure white jade because his body had been continuously transforming recently. The two girls immediately turned red and quickly came back to their senses. The heavenly flame elixir should be smeared all over the body. It's the best and easier to absorb, Qiyu said in a low voice. She truly felt that this was a kind of squandering. Even the most powerful saintess on a planet couldn't help but shake her head endlessly. This kind of waste was too shameful. Chu Feng smiled and said nothing. He knew his own situation. He circulated the robbery induction breathing technique, and his feet were like roots. He could completely absorb the essence of the heavenly flame elixir without wasting anything. He had used a large amount of the heavenly flame elixir in one go to increase his constitution by 30%. He had no time to slowly grind because a powerful enemy could appear at any time. Chu Feng, come over for a chat. It was at this time that a faintly discernible voice rang out beside Chu Feng's ears. Who are you? He raised his head and stared at a certain part of the sea. Chapter 528. Chu Feng realized that this old man was very strong and not an ordinary evolver. Yuan Mo, Ziluan, and Zhao Qing were bewildered. They hadn't sensed anyone approaching or heard anyone speak, but judging from Chu Feng's reaction, there was clearly someone. This old man invites little friend to have some tea. Chu Feng's fiery eyes gazed at the surface of the sea. He couldn't see with his normal eyes, so he could only use his eye arts to scan the area. Here, sure enough, he saw a small boat made of dark green bamboo. There were even green leaves growing on some of the bamboos. There was a refreshing aura that blended in with nature. On the small bamboo boat, there was a small red clay stove, a table, and a tea set. An old man with white hair and beard was sitting cross-legged with a warm smile on his face. The blue sea was calm and tranquil. The small boat came unhurriedly, carrying with it some white mist that blocked everyone's probing. Chu Feng didn't walk over. He chose to retreat in the face of the unknown and this unfathomable expert. He personally steered the multicolored ship and performed a spatial jump, crossing the void in an instant. With a swoosh, he directly disappeared from this place. His actions were decisive, and he appeared in the southern sea. Chu Feng felt that he wasn't the old man's match. The difference in their levels of evolution was too great. He didn't understand the other party at all, and didn't know what would happen if he approached rashly. He didn't want to put his safety in the hands of others and wait for them to decide. Little friend, don't misunderstand. I really don't have any enmity. However, a calm voice was heard once again. Not far away, the small green boat rose and fell with the waves. This was terrifying. In just a moment, the old man in the small boat had followed him from the eastern sea to the southern sea, crossing tens of thousands of kilometers of sea. Chu Feng left the multicolored ship and disappeared from the sea with a flash. In fact, he had approached the small boat and boarded it. Behind him, Yuan Mo, Zhao Qing, Zhao Wan, and the others looked as if they had seen a ghost. He had disappeared just like that and could no longer be sensed. Chu Feng took the initiative to board the small boat because he knew he couldn't leave. This old man's strength was beyond imagination. Even the multicolored ship couldn't shake him off with its spatial jump. As such, there was no need to try to hide. Fiery golden eyes. Sigh. An eye technique that makes one envious. It is truly formidable, even stronger than the heavenly eye. Even the heavenly eye cannot see this bamboo boat. The elder sighed softly. Is that so? Chu Feng only said one word. You don't have to worry about the surveillance of the extraterrestrial eyes here. They can't see through you. The old man smiled and told Chu Feng that the crystallized heaven's eyes didn't have the ability to see through fabrications. My name is Yu Chi Kong, of the Earth's Hidden Clan. The old man introduced himself. Chu Feng looked at him and said, Your race doesn't live in secret realms. Have you always lived in the main space of Earth? This was because he was certain that this old man was an old monster who had surpassed the visualization realm. He was extremely powerful, and it was reasonable to say that this kind of person shouldn't have come into being at this time. Yu Chi Kong laughed and said, There are always exceptions, and there are always some accidents. Someone guided me over to cross over into Earth's main space. He calmly told Chu Feng that their hidden clan was indeed residing in a secret realm, but someone had guided them over. Ow! Although Chu Feng had asked this, he had already guessed what was going on. He just wanted to confirm it. A young man received the approval of an extremely powerful energy pagoda and guided me over, Yu Chi Kong informed. As expected, Chu Feng nodded. Just like Linoy, she had obtained a superstar energy pagoda. This kind of ancient and incomparably powerful inheritance was recognized by the Earth's consciousness and could construct a bridge across folded space. Back then, Linoy had used the superstar energy pagoda as bait to make the Great Chi Prince, and the others believed that a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity had arrived. They had asked her to help them cross over. In the end, Linoy had killed almost all of them during the battle on Mount Lao. Only Chi Yu had escaped. You grew up on Earth and will face the same enemy in the future. You must support each other in the future. The old man smiled. Chu Feng naturally knew who he was talking about. That person had obtained an extraordinary energy pagoda. Just how great of an opportunity was this? He had a feeling that this energy pagoda wasn't simple at all. Naturally, I also hope to have someone to fight against the outer realm enemies with me. Is he going to appear? Chu Feng asked calmly. Everyone has their own path. He's not the same as you. I'll let you meet in a while, but it's not time for him to appear yet. Chu Feng looked at him without saying anything. He carries too many burdens and shouldn't appear too early. He'll face the 10 greats in the future and have to contend with the strongest Tao children. He'll slaughter saints, overturn everything, and restore Earth to its former glory. The old man's emotions were infected as he spoke. He sighed and said, I'm a bit excited. It seems this person we've never met is quite extraordinary, Chu Feng said. Yuchi Kong nodded and said, "Yes, his talents are indeed outstanding and rare. Whether it's physical arts or spiritual arts, he's able to learn them very quickly." Chu Feng didn't say anything. He could feel that Yuchi Kong held that person in high esteem and wasn't stingy with his praises. At this time, the water in the red clay stove was already boiling. The old man washed the tea set and took out a number of translucent tea leaves from a jade jar. The colors were all different. Some were golden yellow, some were scarlet red, and some were as white as jade. The tea leaves were very special. When the water fell into the tea set, a fragrance assailed the nostrils and pervaded the air, calming everyone's hearts for a moment. These are the leaves of the divine tea tree on earth from ancient times. It can no longer be found nowadays. It must have fallen into the 10 greats and become the exclusive tea tree of a certain peerless race. Zhou Shang had a great fortune and obtained a jar of divine tea. He gifted me some and invited you to have a taste. The old man finally revealed the person's name, Zhou Shang. Chu Feng was astonished. He had already sensed that this person seemed to have obtained many fortunes. He had even obtained the divine tea from before. This kind of tea can help one calm the mind and quicken the mind. It'll be twice the result with half the effort when comprehending a certain technique. Yuchi Kong laughed. "Please." The old man gestured for him to drink the tea. The jade cup was sparkling and translucent with a number of leaves glowing within. A mass of light curled up within the cup, creating an extraordinary scene. The fragrance of the tea refreshed the mind and seeped into one's bones. Chu Feng drank some and began to deduce the Eastern Violet Chi Fist and the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms. He had to admit that his mind was clear and his thoughts were indeed sharper than usual, but it wasn't enough to change anything. "Good tea, thank you," Chu Feng said. "Since little friend likes it, I'll give this half a jar to you," Yuchi Kong said as he passed the jar forward. "A gentleman doesn't take what others like." Chu Feng shook his head and pushed the jade jar back with great seriousness. If a group of divine sons and saintesses were to hear this, they would surely curse out loud. What dodge Astra's tea, not taking what others like? Even the old man Yuchi Kong revealed an odd expression, but quickly concealed it. Apparently, he was also a bit surprised by Chu Feng's words. It wasn't his style at all. The two drank tea and chatted harmoniously. At least, that was how it seemed on the surface. Chu Feng was astonished. He was moved after a brief understanding. That person seemed to have obtained many great fortunes and was a true heaven's chosen. This was something Yuchi Kong had said unintentionally. It could only be considered bits and pieces, but it was enough to frighten people. "Little friend Chu Feng, I have a presumptuous request," the old man suddenly said. Chu Feng was startled and looked at him in puzzlement. "I heard little friend went to the Qinling Mountains and saw a damaged energy pagoda. You must have taken something from there. This old man wishes to request it on behalf of Zhou Shang." When Chu Feng heard these words, his body tensed up and his pupils contracted. Was the main show coming? How could he hand over the silver box? Inside was the robbery induction breathing technique. Even though he still couldn't open it, Yao Yao had already told him about it. At the same time, Chu Feng was terrified. How did the old man know about such a top secret? Only the toad, Ouyang Feng, had been by his side at that time and had witnessed everything. "Little friend, you must be curious as to how we know. It's because Zhou Shang obtained the oldest and most orthodox energy pagoda on Earth. There's a record of what he wants to inherit. There's an inheritance buried in the Qinling Mountains. When we went there, we discovered that little friend had beaten us to it. I did go there, but I didn't obtain anything." The old man said, "Little friend, there's no need to deny it. Zhou Shang obtained the oldest energy pagoda with the highest authority. He's already fused with the damaged pagoda and understood everything." Chu Feng was shaken. He realized that this was indeed possible. Every energy pagoda was like black technology and seemed to have its own will. The pagoda in the Qinling Mountains was damaged, but it indeed understood everything. Although he couldn't deny it, Chu Feng wouldn't hand it over. Why should he hand over the fortune he had obtained to the old man in front of him and then give it to Zhou Shang? Zhou Shang obtained the oldest energy pagoda on Earth. It's all-encompassing and contains all kinds of techniques. He went to look for the silver box and wanted to see what was inside to verify it. After looking, he'll return it to little friend. Chu Feng said, "It's only the first time we've met. Doesn't Senior feel that it's too rash and inappropriate? Not to mention the robbery induction breathing technique. Even ordinary inheritances shouldn't be asked for like this." Chu Feng couldn't possibly agree, but this old man felt that Zhou Shang should take a look. "Both of you are stars of hope for Earth's rise. You should support each other and not be selfish," said Yuchi Kong. Chu Feng frowned. This was the first time they'd met, and they didn't understand each other. This old man was preaching and demanding the most important ultimate breathing technique on him. How is this possible? Is this Zhou Shang's intention or Senior's? If you want to communicate, you can ask him to bring the oldest energy pagoda over and let me see it. The old man was silent after hearing this. In the end, he sighed and said, "That pagoda concerns too much. It can't be revealed." Then he said, "I want little friend to understand that helping Zhou Shang now is very important to you, me, and to the current Earth." Chu Feng realized that some of the outer realm beings' speculations might have come true. The heaven's chosen ones on Earth were divided into the so-called false and true ones. That was because he could clearly feel that in this old man's heart, Zhou Shang was the orthodox one and the only one who would lead Earth to endless glory. He understood that Zhou Shang might be the so-called Earth's true one. At the very least, that was how Yuchi Kong saw him. Chapter 529. Have some tea, little friend. Yuchi Kong brewed tea once again. The golden, white, and red leaves reflected each other's splendor and blossomed with auspicious clouds. After being soaked in boiling water, the colors blended together and filled the air with a fragrance. Chu Feng didn't say anything. He held the teacup in his hand and took a sip, his eyes deep. He appeared to be very calm, but there was a tinge of resentment in his heart. He had gone through untold hardships and risked his life to obtain the ultimate breathing technique. It was actually being coveted by someone who wanted to take it away directly. How could he be satisfied? Fortunately, this old man was unfathomable. Otherwise, Chu Feng would have smashed him with a fist and then sold him off. Although it's presumptuous, please forgive me. Everything is for the revival of this planet and for it to prosper once more. Yuchi Kong sighed. You're so righteous and awe-inspiring. You're making me dizzy from the pressure, Chu Feng said calmly. Little friend, you're still dissatisfied. What will it take for you to hand over the silver box? The old man asked with a deep gaze. Chu Feng said, I can discuss the Tao with Zhou Shang, but it should be voluntary and fair. I only want to see the things recorded in that ancient energy pagoda. Yuchi Kong produced a number of ancient books and said, Little friend, I brought these things in order to express my sincerity. They're all top-notch combat arts and techniques. Come take a look. Chu Feng scanned through them. He would have naturally been moved if it were a long time ago. But now, he didn't feel much. The ancient books were Eastern Violet Chi Finger, Tiger Demon Art, Solar Fist, Earth-Penetrating Seal, and Saintly Terror Spear. They were all secret books and could be considered terrifying. Yuchi Kong said, This is Zhou Shang's kind intentions. It wasn't hard to see how terrifying the fortunes of Earth's true one Zhou Shang were. He had taken out 5 top-notch books in one go for Yuchi Kong to exchange for. Chu Feng's expression was calm. The Eastern Violet Chi Finger and Solar Fist were practically standard techniques of ancient Earth. All of the Shilin clan's army knew and mastered them. I've heard that in ancient times, there were peerless chapters like Sky-Throwing Seal and Flying Immortal Spear on Earth. Do you still have such secret manuals? Come to think of it, if it's the most ancient energy pagoda, there should still be records of this peerless combat skill. Yuchi Kong's expression changed slightly. The Sky-Flipping Seal was known to be able to change the heavens with a flip of the hand. Once this kind of seal was formed, it could simply destroy all enemies as easily as breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. It was reported that during the great calamity of ancient times, a supreme native expert formed a seal with both hands. It was called Overturning the Heavens, and it shattered a heaven illuminator expert, leaving him drenched in blood from head to toe. There was also a native expert who wielded a spear with both hands during the fierce battle in ancient times. He charged unhindered into the group of enemies, and his entire body blossomed with the light of the divine spear. It transformed into the light of ascension and strangled his enemies, piercing through the great enemies who illuminated the heavens. The sky-flipping seal and flying immortal spear that Chu Feng spoke of were peerless chapters even in the cosmos. The top 10 planets all wanted to collect them. Chu Feng didn't really want to exchange them, but rather, he was just testing this person's attitude. He also wanted to see if the so-called true one of Earth, Zhou Shang, had already grasped them. "Little friend, you're making things difficult for me," Yu Qi said in a deep voice. Chu Feng sneered in his heart. As he saw it, the robbery induction breathing technique surpassed everything. No battle technique or wondrous technique could compare to it. That was because there was a saying that when a top-notch breathing technique was cultivated to a certain realm, divine abilities would emerge on their own and wondrous techniques would appear on their own. There is no need to deliberately pursue other divine abilities, battle techniques, and wondrous techniques. Yu Qi said, "Little brother Chu Feng, you and Zhou Shang, one in the light and the other in the dark, should be in the same boat. Some inheritances must be studied together. You have to know that you've always been in the light, and it's easy for accidents to happen. It would be a great loss if some inheritances were to be severed." Chu Feng was convinced that the so-called one in the light and the other in the dark sounded nice, but it was tantamount to admitting that he was the fake one who was attracting the attention of all enemies. Meanwhile, the true one, Zhou Shang, was cultivating in seclusion, waiting for the moment when he would transform into a dragon and soar into the sky. "Old man, there's no need to be so tactful. You said so much, but don't you just want all the fortunes and fortunes on my body? You can't wait to give them all to Zhou Shang, can you? You think he's the true one and I'm the fake one, born to protect him?" Chu Feng went straight to the point. Yu Qi expression changed. In the end, he said, "Although I don't want to be so direct, perhaps this is the case. Little friend Chu Feng, you should leave some things for the true one for the sake of the future. Otherwise, you'll be in a passive position if something unexpected happens. What if the silver box falls into the hands of the enemy? After all, many people in the universe have their eyes on you and want to kill you. The true one, on the other hand, is still unknown. Let him cultivate in seclusion and silence, and he'll soar to the heavens in one go in the end." Chu Feng's heart went cold. The things he had risked his life to obtain had really been completely targeted. However, he wasn't afraid because he had long since probed this person's bottom line. Even if he wanted his inheritance and gave it to Zhou Shang, it was likely that he wouldn't use force. Not long ago, Chu Feng had carefully thought about it. It should be Yao Yao's deterrence because Yao Yao thought highly of him. This was a kind of great support. "Chu Feng, are you really not willing to hand over the silver box?" It was obvious that Yu Qi was a bit impatient. With his strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill Chu Feng. "That's mine," Chu Feng replied calmly. "You know that you won't be able to resist if I take it by force." Yu Qi voice was somewhat cold. Chu Feng's expression also became chilly. He wouldn't accept the threat and said, "Yao Yao told me that I have to verify my own path. She won't give me any methods, and I'll have to think of my own way if I need anything. However, she will give me a certain amount of protection. My methods and techniques were found by me after a narrow escape, so naturally, she won't hand them over to you. If you want to make a move, you should first go to Mount Longhu and ask Yao Yao." At this point, it seemed like they were going to shed all pretenses of cordiality. Princess Yao Yao is known as the #1 under the heavens and is peerless among those of the same rank. She is indeed heaven-defying, but when it comes to nurturing people, she isn't necessarily peerless. If she sees Zhou Shang, She'll definitely choose him without hesitation because Zhou Shang is destined to be peerless under the heavens and become the second Yao Yao. You guys are really confident. Chu Feng sneered. He had slaughtered his way here and had rich combat experience, but he didn't dare say he was peerless under the heavens. Yet that Earth's true one, who had been cultivating in secret and had never met, dared to think so? That's because he has the innocuous divine physique, a truly peerless physique. There are no calamities or tribulations on the path of evolution. He's incomparable and invincible once his divine physique appears. That's why he's the Earth's true one, the true heaven's chosen one. Yu Qikong's words were faint. He had absolute confidence in Zhou Shang. Innocuous divine physique? Chu Feng frowned. He really hadn't heard of it and didn't understand, since he had already revealed it. Yu Qikong opened his mouth and praised Zhou Shang. This could also be considered a warning to Chu Feng. He said, "This kind of divine physique has almost never been defeated since its birth. Since ancient times, only a few people with this kind of physique have appeared. They can be counted on one hand. As long as they don't fall along the way and aren't harmed by others, they will eventually reach the peak." Then he said that Chu Feng was the false one and also the bright one. Being in the light was already extremely dangerous. You can consider the matter of the silver box for now. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. The silver box was unique, but there were some things that were not unique. I heard you obtained several drops of hellish and elixir. 1 or 2 drops is enough for you. Can you give Zhou Shang 2 drops? Yu Qikong's expression was calm as he put down his teacup. At this point, he had clearly expressed his position. He was going to support Zhou Shang and even wanted to ask for heavenly materials and earthly treasures from Chu Feng. Chu Feng laughed and said, "I've fought for everything I have. I won't give up or waste resources easily." Chu Feng, that's too much. Not at all. Doesn't he have the innocuous divine physique? Since that's the case, let him fight with the divine sons and saintesses. He can fight for whatever he wants. Why ask me for it? Chu Feng said bluntly. A moment of forbearance can lead to a lifetime of glory. A short moment of impulse will destroy one's future, said Yu Qikong. If we don't get along, I'm leaving. Chu Feng got up and didn't want to say anything more. Yu Qikong said, "To be honest, Zhou Shang has obtained other divine elixirs and tempered his body. He only wanted to use the hellish and elixir to test it out. It's not important whether or not he can advance a bit. Unfortunately, this is just a test, and you've already refused. Truly, I'm not your so-called true one subordinate. What right do you have to hand over my fortunes and fortunes? How can you determine the so-called true one? True gold needs to be refined by fire. What proof does he have? Where was he when I was killing enemies from the outer realms and making them tremble? How about this? If he really wants my things, he can fight me. If I lose, I'll give everything to him. If I win, he'll give me that ancient energy pagoda." Chapter 530. The boundless blue sea was devoid of wind and waves like a giant sapphire stretching across the land. There wasn't a single cloud in the clear sky. It was incomparably blue and was the same color as the ocean. The sky and sea were connected together, and the entire world was blue and clean. Chu Feng stepped on the azure sea surface and walked toward the multicolored ship step by step. He was pondering in silence and frowning. The appearance of the Earth's true one was destined to cause many things to happen. The Shilin clan's divine son was coming, and the deity race's young god was also about to appear. At such a juncture, the Earth itself wouldn't be peaceful. Right now, Chu Feng wasn't in a good mood. What was true and what was false? How was he supposed to judge? Why did he have to give away something he had obtained by risking his life to help the so-called true one succeed? How can there be true and false in a world of great strife? Chu Feng jumped up and returned to his ship. Then he sat there quietly, pondering a few things. Yuan Mo, Zilwan, Zhao Qing, and the others didn't disturb him. Although they didn't see the dark green bamboo ship or Yu Qikong, they knew something must have happened. Chu Feng's silence made them a bit uncomfortable. Whether it was Zilwan, Zhan He, or the demonish Zhao Qing and Luo Miaoxiang. None of them had ever seen him so quiet. In their impression, Chu Feng hunted divine sons and saintesses and extorted orthodoxies from high-ranking planets. He was a shameless and savage mess. Now, he seemed to be a different person. His handsome face was somewhat delicate, and his eyes were clear. He seemed somewhat pure in his silence, completely different from the demonic aura they had in mind. Chu Feng's will was firm. Yu Qikong had come to his door to ask for the True One's ultimate breathing technique and even the hellish elixir. Naturally, he wouldn't agree. He was frowning because he was thinking about something. Was the so-called True One related to the choice of the Earth's will? If so, it was indeed not good because he was living here. This was what he was worried about, so he was very quiet and pondering seriously. Finally, Chu Feng raised his head, his eyes bright and piercing. He didn't think that the will of the planet would intervene in this matter. Moreover, his conviction was firm. True experts weren't chosen. What true one or false one? In this world of great battles, only self-improvement was true. Then he stopped thinking about it and started to study secret techniques and comprehend the secret manuals he had recently obtained to improve his strength. The reason he was able to reach this step wasn't because the title of Heaven's Chosen One gave him extra points and increased his brilliance, but because he was strong enough himself. He defeated a group of enemies along the way, and his true battle accomplishments were glorious. That was why he was so resplendent, and that was why he was considered Heaven's Chosen One. In short, it was his own brilliance that earned him the title of Heaven's Chosen One, not the other way around. In this era of great competition, only self-improvement is possible. The innocuous divine body was very strong and was known to be invincible. This was not something that Chu Feng could change. It belonged to others. What he needed to do was to improve himself and surpass the limits of the human body. Afterward, Yuan Mo, Zilwan, Zhao Qing, and the others saw Chu Feng stand up. His eyes were deep as he deduced various combat techniques and pondered over secret techniques. Early in the morning, Chu Feng left the big ship with his upper body bare. He stood on the surface of the sea and faced the red sun full of vitality. He was using the Eastern Violet Chi Fist. He laid down a domain and spread a tattered scroll across the sky. That was because he didn't want the people of the outer realm to see what he was doing, especially when he was cultivating. Chu Feng's bare arms, chest, and abdomen were sparkling and translucent. His figure was slender and extremely fit. Now he had applied the scarlet heavenly flame elixir on his body. This time, it would permanently increase his constitution by 30%. He didn't want to waste time and wasn't stingy with the heavenly flame elixir. He only wanted to complete the process of nurturing his body as soon as possible. Boom! He stood on the surface of the sea and brandished his fist seals. The entire blue sea undulated with the waves and slammed into the sky. The sun had just risen and dense violet chi gathered here. It gradually drowned Chu Feng and allowed him to experience the true profundities of the Eastern Violet Chi Fist. It's a type of extremely high-grade energy. The Eastern Violet Chi represents an indescribable nobility. The fist intent is majestic like a divine king walking with his hands pushing the stars in the heavens. Chu Feng had comprehended this ancient fist manual. The next moment, when he moved once more, apart from the violet light flying over from the sun, there was also the violet chi from the icy cosmos, descending from the outer realm and converging together. Even Yuan Mo couldn't help but be moved. Chu Feng stood there and produced all kinds of grand phenomena as he used his fist seals. He was like a divine king whose blood energy surged into the sky with every movement and enveloped the entire sea region. Stars appeared one after the other amidst the violet chi and revolved around him. He comprehended the Eastern Violet Chi Fist so quickly. Zhan He, Luo Miaoxiang, Qi Yu, and the others were astonished. They naturally knew what kind of fist manual Chu Feng was displaying. Bang! Suddenly, Chu Feng's fist speed reached its pinnacle and was no longer the same as before. His entire body was accompanied by violet chi as he revolved the stars around him. His aura was majestic, and at the same time, he attacked like lightning. The flowing light fist is a secret technique of the deity race. He's fused it into the Eastern violet chi fist. The demoness Zhao Qing's eyes lit up. She was fairly astonished. It was already impressive enough to comprehend a top-grade battle technique, but to fuse it with other fist intents like this was difficult even for geniuses. Very few dared to attempt it. Now, Chu Feng was doing just that. Those who dared to do this, regardless of whether they succeeded or not, were extraordinary and worthy of reverence. Qi surged between Chu Feng's mouth and nose, followed by all the pores on his body. He was circulating his breathing technique and displaying his fist seals in an attempt to fuse them into one. When he stopped, it was still early and the sun wasn't high. His entire body was glowing brilliantly, as if he was covered in a layer of precious light. It was as if he was cast from immortal divine gold. Chu Feng was convinced that the 30% increase in his constitution due to the heavenly flame elixir had been completed. On the big ship, Yuan Mo, Zhan He, and the others also began to cultivate. They circulated their breathing techniques and were very engrossed. Only Zi Luan appeared somewhat languid. She was half reclining on a wrought-tan chair, facing the red sun and enjoying the sea breeze. She held a goblet of wine in her hand and occasionally took a sip of red wine. She was rather leisurely. Chu Feng completely understood why this Tsundere girl's strength wasn't that great. Although she was a saintess who had walked out from a high-grade planet, her cultivation wasn't high because she didn't work hard enough. Someone like her could be considered excessively lazy. She was so leisurely early in the morning, enjoying fine wine and the sun. She didn't cultivate at all. As far as the eye could see, the others were all inhaling and exhaling energy. Even though the demoness Zhao Qing usually acted coquettishly, she was still very serious early in the morning. She sat cross-legged on the deck and practiced a special breathing technique. Even though Luo Miaoxiang and Shi Yu had been very unhappy these past few days and had been thinking of running away, they were still earnestly doing their morning exercises when the morning sun shone brightly. They absorbed fresh energy and purified their bodies. Chu Feng looked at Ziluan and said, "You're very free, aren't you? Come over and help me apply medicine and give me a massage." He had hunted a group of divine sons and saintesses. Naturally, he had robbed them all before selling them. One of the so-called star sea safflower could activate the blood vessels and increase cell activity. It was most suitable to be applied to the body after cultivation, as it could promote evolution. Ziluan turned around in a panic. Then she saw his shiny, naked upper body. Her little face immediately turned red. She hurriedly raised the goblet and drank the last of the red wine in order to cover up her embarrassment. "What an eyesore!" she mumbled so softly that it was almost inaudible. Then she proudly refused and said, "Massaging your back is my limit. I'm not going to help you apply medicine and give you a massage. Even my brother hasn't enjoyed such treatment. This kind of treatment, unless your brother is a cis-con or you're a brother-con," Chu Feng said. "You." Ziluan's face immediately turned red again. "They're all cultivating. Why are you so lazy?" Chu Feng asked. "I've already applied the heavenly flame elixir. My physique is improving every day. I feel that one should be content with what they have. That's enough." Ziluan raised her snow-white chin and spoke with conviction. As she spoke, she even stretched her body in an untimely and delicate manner. Chu Feng looked at her and said, "As a captive, you enjoy the sea breeze, watch the sunrise, and taste red wine every day. Are you a petty bourgeoisie, or are you here on vacation? Speaking of which, I've already sold you last time." However, Ziluan wasn't afraid at all. She yawned and said, "The buyer has canceled the order. The deal has failed." Because the buyers were her brother and father, she naturally wasn't afraid of anything. At the same time, she also wanted to cancel the order to avoid extortion. Chu Feng looked at her and said, "Tell your brother Zi Xiao that even if he cancels the order, he has to mail me the secret manuals that fulfilled the conditions last time." Huh. Ziluan was like a startled rabbit. Her eyes widened, and she couldn't help but take a few steps back. What, huh? Do you really think I don't know that it's your family who wants to buy you? Speaking of which, it's quite interesting. Last time, those two people fiercely competed with each other. I guess it was a family mishap? Chu Feng mocked. You. Ziluan's little face immediately turned red. Last time, her brother and her father had competed with each other until their eyes were red and they wanted to eat each other. In the end, when they found out who the other party was, they were both dumbfounded. Her father almost ran to the immemorial temple to beat her brother. Hurry up and contact your family. I really need those ancient manuals that we discussed last time. Chu Feng urged. Those ancient manuals talked about creating one's own techniques. Only those that were suitable for oneself were the best. Chu Feng felt that the theory of this school of thought was very suitable for him. If he combined it with his breathing technique, his divine abilities and wondrous techniques would naturally appear. It was undoubtedly more exciting. At first, Ziluan was still bashful and refused to admit that they were a family. Chu Feng was very straightforward. He directly contacted Zishao because he was a genius of the immemorial temple. He was very famous among the younger generation and was a gold account member on the Origin Beast platform. On that day, Zishao was unbearably angry because Chu Feng had come to his door and directly asked him to pay a protection fee. On what basis? Zishao had never been extorted like this before. The immemorial temple was run by a taboo character at the Heaven Illuminator realm. He was a genius here, so his status was naturally very high. On the basis that I'm supporting your sister, Chu Feng replied. Zishao was immediately infuriated when he heard such words. Supporting your sister? These words weren't very pleasant to hear. It sounded like he was cursing and taking advantage of others. It gave the impression that he was a cheap brother-in-law. Chu Feng, I'm warning you, stop right there. Are you going to pay the protection fee or not? If not, then there's nothing I can do. After tonight, I'll call you brother-in-law tomorrow morning. Zishao was so angry that his fingers began to tremble. But in the end, he compromised. He contacted his father immediately and prepared to send all kinds of ancient books to Earth through express delivery. Before long, Chu Feng received a large package filled with books. Afterwards, he forgot to eat and sleep as he researched the theory of this school. He read intensively every day and then put it into practice. Several days later, the outer space of Earth wasn't peaceful. A battleship crossed the sky and arrived. The divine son of the machine race had arrived. At the same time, the people of the Shilin clan had also arrived. The genius known as the #1 divine son of the Shilin clan had arrived and was prepared to enter Earth's main space. The starry skies were boiling over with news. Everyone knew that a storm was about to begin. The Shilin clan was a group of experts who had rebelled against Earth. Now that the race's divine son had returned and wanted to take over Earth, the impact would be far-reaching. Next, the Shilin clan's divine son and Chu Feng's struggle involved the so-called fight for orthodoxy. At this time, Yu Qi-Kong finally appeared. He found Chu Feng and brought some news. Sorry, I'm late. I ran into some matters on the way. Yes, let's get down to business. Zhou Shang has agreed to fight with you in secret. Chu Feng was very cold. Now that powerful enemies from the outer realms had arrived, he had no time to deal with the so-called Earth's true one. Chapter 531. The lush green bamboo boat rose and fell with the waves, carrying fresh leaves and rich vitality. Yu Qi-Kong sat cross-legged and drank a mouthful of sparkling purple tea. He shook his head with a frown and said, "This matter isn't appropriate. Zhou Shang shouldn't come into being. He believed that the Earth's true one's identity was sensitive and should lie low. He shouldn't fight or collide with the beings of the outer realm and wait for the fish to transform into a dragon." Just like last time, Yu Qi-Kong's arrival didn't draw any attention. Apart from Chu Feng, Yuan Mo, Zhao Qing, and the others didn't see him or the green bamboo boat. Chu Feng's lips curled into a cold smile. He didn't want to say anything else. Yu Qi-Kong sighed lightly and said in a sincere and heartfelt manner, Little friend Chu Feng, you're the one in the light, and Zhou Shang is the one in the dark. There are some things you should understand. It's better for one person to be exposed than both. You should resist the pressure outside and give Zhou Shang time to cultivate. Everything is for the future. Don't you think he's lacking some tempering? Chu Feng asked. True gold needed to be tempered by fire, let alone an evolver who wanted to be unrivaled in the present. Yu Qikong said there's no lack of it. There are experts to exchange pointers with him, and there are fierce battles every day. You've really thought things through, Chu Feng said. He didn't want to say anything more about this matter because the two of them had completely different opinions. A tiger roaming the mountains not only had its own might, but also needed the mountains to nurture its wild nature and ferocity. Little friend, the enemies you'll face this time aren't weak. There's the Shilin clan's divine son and the deity, race's young god. Take care. Yu Qikong was concerned at first, but then he said, can you reconsider the matter I mentioned last time? He brought up the old matter again and still wanted the silver box. He hoped that Chu Feng could show it to Zhou Shang. Chu Feng refused and said, there's no need to say more. It was decided last time. If you want it, bring me the most ancient energy pagoda or let Zhou Shang fight me. Little friend, everyone knows you're the bright one. This time, you'll face too many enemies. You should think about it carefully. What if something unexpected happens? I think it's better to leave the silver box behind, just in case. Do you also want me to leave the hellish and elixir behind and give all the valuable things on me to Zhou Shang before I leave? Chu Feng stared at him. Yu Qikong said in a deep voice, young friend, please don't be angry. My suggestion is for future considerations. Chu Feng's expression became extremely cold and indifferent as he said, I've said it before. I risked my life to obtain it. If Zhou Shang wants it, then let him take it himself. Yu Qikong said with a frown, he's a spy. With his identity, it's best for him to remain still and not move. His fierce battles and his brilliance will blossom in the future. Saying that Zhou Shang was a spy was just a euphemism. Naturally, he was saying that Zhou Shang was the Earth's true one and that his status was precious. It wasn't appropriate for him to make a move at this time because he couldn't expose himself. You should leave. It's best if you don't come back, Chu Feng said coldly. There was a wave of anger in his heart, feeling extremely uncomfortable. He was facing off against a group of enemies outside. It was fine if the Earth's true one, Zhou Shang, didn't come out to fight, but he still wanted his things. Yu Qikong's demands were too excessive. Yu Qikong said, you'll understand the boundless might of the innocuous divine physique one day. It's not that I'm biased towards him. One day, he'll cut down some of the strongest Tao children of the 10 greats and restore our planet to its former glory. Chu Feng said coldly, as you said, I'm the false one, and he's the true one. We each have our own paths, so let's not get entangled with each other. In this great world, we'll each develop along our own paths. Little friend, Chu Feng, enough with your long-winded chatter. Chu Feng had had enough of him. There was a ball of fury in his heart, but he really wasn't this person's match if they were to fall out. He only wanted to drive him away as soon as possible. Yu Qikong's gaze was cold as he stared at him. He had surpassed the visualization realm and was Zhou Shang's Tao protector. His strength was naturally terrifying, and he had the urge to take the silver box by force. But when he thought of Mount Longhu and Princess Yao Yao, he shrank back and turned to leave. He decided to find an opportunity to take Zhou Shang to Mount Longhu and let Yao Yao see what kind of stunning descendant their hidden race had found. The innocuous, divine physique. If news of this were spread, it would shake the starry skies. Yu Qikong left on his bamboo raft and disappeared into the depths of the southern sea. Chu Feng returned to the multicolored ship and sat down cross-legged in complete silence. At this moment, the outside world was in a clamor. In the outer realms, battleships lay in disarray. The machine race's divine son had appeared, calling himself the mechanical Vajra. He was 3 meters tall, and his entire body was snow white. It was unknown what kind of metal he had evolved from, and he carried a black longsword on his back. Apart from him, There were also a number of machine race experts who were divine sons in waiting, as well as some veteran experts. It could be said that they had mustered a large force. In another area, a group of people walked through the air. They were from the Shilin clan. The Shilin clan and machine race had a close relationship. The two races had long since formed an alliance, and in most cases, they would act in concert and attack together. Now, they had come together again. There were more than 10 people in the Shilin clan's group. One of them was exceptionally outstanding. His skin was fair, and there was a red between his eyebrows that revealed a lustrous luster. His name was Wei Lin, meaning that he was the Wei family's Qilin child. He was a heaven-bestowed genius and incomparably powerful. He had once fought in hell, and his strength was unfathomable. Wei Lin was very handsome. He was a direct descendant of the supreme Saint Wei Hung. His appearance was similarly extraordinary, and even his temperament was similar. His skin was fair and somewhat feminine. Add to that the red dot between his eyebrows. He had the appearance of a man and a woman. His figure was tall, and his appearance was outstanding, but he was extremely powerful. Mechanical Vajra. Wei Lin greeted him with a smile. This form of address was an acknowledgement of the machine race's divine son, and it could be considered a form of respect. Brother Wei, I heard you've returned from hell and cultivated an unfathomable divine ability. Congratulations. The mechanical Vajra sighed in admiration. All the evolvers who heard these words were moved. What kind of place was hell? It was too dangerous. There were already hellish ants on the first level. If they attacked in groups, they could slaughter many golden arhats and use them as food. So much so that there were solitary hellish ants that could kill golden arhats. Their individual strength was exceptionally terrifying. Therefore, it was extremely dangerous for the younger generation to go there. Even if they had Tao protectors following them, sometimes they would still face a calamity. In general, apart from the top-ranked planets in the cosmos, ordinary orthodoxies wouldn't send divine sons and saintesses there. It was very difficult to survive there. In a sense, the youngsters who could enter hell, regardless of whether they had any gains, as long as they could come back alive, it was equivalent to having the identity of a top-notch young expert. Mechanical Vajra, you've returned from the gods' forbidden zone. It's not inferior to training in hell. Wei Lin smiled. There was a gods' forbidden zone at the edge of the cosmos. It was similar to hell, and it was an extremely dangerous zone. It would be difficult for evolvers to survive if they were charged in. There was a girl beside Wei Lin who looked very similar to him. She was beautiful, confident, and had a red up between her eyebrows. This was his younger sister, the princess of the Shilin clan, Wei Xian. Wei Xian's figure was tall and slender. Her appearance wasn't much different from Wei Lin's, but she didn't have a feminine aura. She was extremely tender and beautiful with a moving smile. Mechanical Vajra, your reputation is well-deserved. I'm ashamed. I only circled around the periphery of the gods' forbidden zone and didn't really enter. But at least I had some gains. I obtained some rare metal materials and integrated them into my body. The mechanical Vajra continued. I heard Princess Wei Xian had also entered hell. That really surprised me. It seems Brother Wei Lin isn't the only genius of the Shilin clan. The Shilin clan is destined to prosper. His words of praise had a hidden meaning. The Shilin clan's arrival on Earth this time was of great significance. From a certain perspective, it could be considered a prelude to their return to the mother planet. Wei Lin smiled and said, "Let's go. We'll adjust ourselves to peak condition and then cross over into the main space of this planet." Outside of Earth, there were many teams. There were orthodoxies from high-ranking planets, interstellar hunters, and cosmic mercenaries. The composition was complicated. Seeing the Shilin clan and machine race approaching, they all nodded and greeted them. That was because these two races were extremely powerful. Moreover, both the Shilin clan and machine race had golden Arhut level experts following them to protect their divine sons. When a gap appeared in Earth's domains, they would rush in and fight for the fortunes. Be it in the starry skies or on Earth itself, there was no peace. People were discussing spiritedly shocked by the news. The two great divine sons of the machine race and Shilin clan were adjusting themselves. They were about to lead their clansmen to descend and appear on Earth. At that time, there would be a fierce battle. Come. Chu Feng sat cross-legged on the multicolored ship. He suddenly opened his eyes and gazed toward the outer realms. Although I haven't reached my peak, I can still fight. He was prepared to attack and meet the Shilin clan's divine son head-on. He would slay the mechanical Vajra. Brother Wei Lin, mechanical Vajra, why are you in such a hurry? Wait for me and we'll go together. In the starry skies, someone spoke and contacted the divine sons of the Shilin clan and machine race through the photon computer. This was a terrifying team covered in black mist as if they had come from the netherworld. This was the netherworld race. Their race's top young expert, Yu Hai, had come in person. At the same time, they were protected by golden Arhut-level experts as they passed through the wormhole and approached the solar system. The planet controlled by the netherworld race used to be ranked 12th in the cosmos. They had once united the experts of the heavens to attack Earth, and with the support of the 10 greats, they succeeded in the end. Now, they were ranked 11th in the cosmos and could be considered an unrivaled race. Such a terrifying race had arrived and was about to enter the solar system. It could be said that they were revisiting an old land and were about to conquer once again. In a sense, they were the main culprits back then and were one of the initiators. They had obtained great benefits from Earth in that battle. Yu Hai has come. He's bound to set off a bloody storm. The Shilin clan's divine son, Wei Lin, was somewhat apprehensive. He sighed softly because that was an unrivaled race ranked 11th. They weren't weaker than the 10 greats. As for the people in the outside world, they were in heated discussion after hearing about this. This naturally caused great waves. The netherworld race has really come. They're moving so quickly and are already close to the solar system. Back then, they were the main force to destroy Earth. Now, they've come again. The two places are really entangled in grievances. They're mortal enemies for life. Everyone knew that once the netherworld race appeared, a huge storm would unfold. Demon King Chu's hatred for them wasn't inferior to the Shilin clans. On the same day, an even more shocking piece of news spread. The saintess of the damning Pure Land, Qin Luoyin, had come out of seclusion. She found out that her distant cousin, Luo Miaoyin, had fallen into Chu Feng's hands. She didn't go find Chu Feng to negotiate with him and was instead rushing over. Reportedly, she wanted to invite the higher-ups of the Wormhole Express Company to open a super wormhole and approach Earth in one go. Qin Luoyin's fame was too great. She was the most powerful descendant of the Damung Pure Land in history and had surpassed her predecessors. Many people said that her current strength was even more powerful than some of the 10 greats. Additionally, she was known as the sixth beauty under the starry skies, and her reputation spread far and wide. Is this true? Many people's first reaction after hearing this was disbelief. Qin Luoyin was actually coming to Earth personally. Chapter 532. Even though it was just a rumor that she was coming to Earth, it caused a heated debate. It was clear just how popular she was. Opening a super wormhole, how many cosmic dollars would that cost? I can only look at the goddess of my heart from afar for the rest of my life. I'll have to work hard for several lifetimes just to cover a single stretch of her journey. Sigh. Someone lamented. During this time, there was another rumor that someone from the Wormhole Express Company had spoken to Fairy Qin of the Damning Pure Land and put in a good word for Chu Feng. There's such a thing? Why? Chu Feng is already a silver client of the Wormhole Express Company. Yes, he can be considered a little famous now. People were speechless after hearing this explanation. This demon had become a distinguished guest of the Wormhole Express Company? This was really unreasonable. Everyone knew how he had become a silver client. This was simply built on the pain of the various orthodoxies. He was notorious and deranged. He had sold at least tens of thousands of portions of deity meat and dozens of divine sons and saintesses. All of them were mailed away by the Wormhole Express Company. The price of express delivery in the cosmos was absolutely frighteningly high. Who would dare do such a thing? They would definitely go bankrupt and simply couldn't afford it. After careful thought, it made sense. Ordinary evolvers would find it difficult to leave their planet in their lifetime, not to mention male things in the cosmos. And Chu Feng had already placed tens of thousands of orders in such a short time. He could definitely be considered a super client of the Wormhole Express company. Although it wasn't confirmed, this kind of rumor caused an uproar. Everyone didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This demon, this human trafficker, was truly full of evil deeds. A terrifying matter was happening outside of Earth. A golden Arhut-level expert from the Shilin clan had appeared and brought out an energy pagoda. It was simple yet majestic. His sleeves fluttered in the wind. Although his white hair was scattered, his body was golden and emitting a powerful blood energy. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Following which, another 4 energy pagodas flew out and resonated with the previous one. They were arranged according to the 5 elements and emitted a glaring light. A large number of runes appeared in outer space. These are the 5 energy pagodas of the 5 elements Imperial Court on the Mother Planet. Now that they've gathered, they retain the aura of ancient times. I hope they can protect you and help you enter Earth's main space. The Golden Arhut elder spoke. His eyes were like lightning, and his golden body looked as if it was made of gold. He was very powerful. Thank you, Granduncle, Wei Lin said. He was adjusting his condition. Everyone who saw this scene was shocked, especially when they heard about the 5 elements evolution dynasty. Many elders were moved. Back in those days, the incomparably glorious 5 elements Imperial Court of Earth was famed far and wide, intimidating all races in the Starry Sea. Their energy pagoda actually fell into the hands of the Shilin clan. Outside of Earth, a certain Golden Arhut rank powerhouse sighed. He was momentarily lost in thought as he recalled that glorious dynasty of evolvers during that period of time. Some mercenaries and interstellar hunters stared at the 5 energy towers left behind by the 5 Elements dynasty with fervent gazes. They could not wait to snatch them away. In the end, no one dared to make a move because they knew that the Shilin clan wasn't afraid of being snatched by others if they dared to take it out. There was bound to be the spiritual imprint of the clan's supreme experts sealed within. Lay down the 5 Elements domain. Tomorrow at noon is the best time to cross over. The Golden Arhut rank elder spoke. With such arrangements, the divine son of the Shilin clan, Wei Lin, and the others would pay a much smaller price when they descended to Earth. Their safety was guaranteed. For a moment, everyone knew that there would be great changes on Earth at noon the next day. Noon, huh? Chu Feng raised his head and stared at the outer realms. The photon computer in his hand allowed him to understand the news in the outer realms immediately and connect to the interstellar network. Then, Chu Feng prepared to leave for land. The multicolored ship flashed and performed an unprecedented jump, leaving the southern sea and returning to land. I still have the vermilion fruit and grass returning pill in my hands. I should push myself to the great circle of the carefree realm. That way, I'll have a much better chance against powerful enemies. Chu Feng pondered. It was just that he was a bit worried. He had advanced too quickly recently. He had just broken through not long ago. Yet he was going to advance triumphantly again? He hadn't even stabilized himself at the later stage of the carefree realm for many days. And now he was going to break through again? The Earth was in the recovery stage and allowed evolvers to evolve rapidly. It wasn't like the other planets, where there was an invisible suppression. But if Chu Feng were to break through again, it would still be too fast. There might be some problems. At this stage, 1 year of cultivation on Earth is equivalent to 10 or even 100 years elsewhere. But in the end, I'm still a bit too fast. That was because he had recently broken through from the shackled realm to the initial stage of the carefree realm, and then to the later stage. The interval between each breakthrough was measured in days and not months. This kind of speed was frightening. If this were the outer realms, he would definitely be regarded as a dead man. Such a rapid evolution could cause his evolutionary foundation to collapse and be destroyed in one day. The Earth used to be extremely powerful, but now it's in a special stage where it's recovering rapidly. Evolvers are also benefiting from it and can advance by leaps and bounds. I hope I'm fine. Chu Feng comprehended for a while and felt that his body was in excellent condition. There were no major problems. Perhaps it was because of the deity elixir, which had eliminated all the recent hidden dangers in his body. He really wanted to obtain another drop of deity elixir, but unfortunately, this item was also very rare in the Cosmos black market. Every time it appeared, it would be quickly inflated to a sky-high price, and then people would fight to buy it. Do you know what else is suitable for my situation apart from the deity elixir? Chu Feng asked Yuan Mo, Ziluan, and the others. Are you worried about problems arising from your rapid evolution? There's a way to solve it. Zhao Qing blinked her large eyes. Her eyelashes were very long, and her eyes were very bright. She was very charming as she licked her red lips, full of charm. Please speak. Chu Feng was very satisfied with the great demoness. Every time, she would take the initiative to tell him all kinds of things. Because of this, he even wanted to recruit Zhao Qing as his assistant. There's a great medicine called the 6 Paths of Reincarnation pill. It can perfectly solve your problem. Zhao Qing's eyes were flowing and her red lips were lustrous. She was very alluring. After her explanation, with Yuan Mo and the others supplementing, Chu Feng immediately understood how heaven-defying this great medicine was. After taking the 6 Paths of Reincarnation pill, it was as if one would experience reincarnation and experience all the phenomena of the mortal world. It was as if one had experienced 6 lifetimes. Therefore, the sequelae caused by rapid evolution, as well as the drawbacks of lingering in a certain realm for too short a time, would not be a problem and would be easily solved. Moreover, not to mention the problem that Chu Feng was worried about, even if one's evolutionary foundation collapsed after taking the 6 Paths of Reincarnation pill, it would gradually heal and there was a possibility of completely recuperating. This kind of great medicine is really heaven-defying. Chu Feng exclaimed in admiration. However, when he heard the price, he was petrified and completely stunned. How many universe dollars? He asked again in disbelief. 80 billion universe dollars. Zhao Qing informed. Seeing Yuan Mo, Ziluan, Zhan He, and the others nod, Chu Feng looked up at the sky. It was just a pill, but it actually cost 80 billion universe dollars. It was too outrageous. In fact, others buy the 6 Paths of Reincarnation pill to save their lives. How terrible would it be for their evolutionary foundation to collapse? But it could be used to make up for it. Moreover, it's not for small cultivators. It's the most dangerous for a golden arhut to evolve. When forging the golden body in the later stages, it's easy for the golden body to collapse and the foundation to tear. Therefore, the 6 Paths of Reincarnation pill is needed. For an evolver at the golden arhut level, 80 billion universe dollars was something they could afford. It had to be said that the pill that Zhao Qing introduced was too high-end. It was even better than the deity elixir. Sigh. I suddenly realized that I still haven't caught enough divine sons and saintesses. I've sold too few, and now I feel like I don't have enough money to spend. Chu Feng sighed. These words made Luo Miaoxiang, Qi Yu, and the others secretly curse. This demon really deserved to be struck by lightning. Although Chu Feng sighed like that, his next words shocked everyone and made them open their eyes wide. I've decided to buy 2 6 Paths of Reincarnation pills. Just a moment ago, he was complaining about the outrageous price, but in the blink of an eye, he wanted to buy 2 in one go. What a rich and overbearing person. In that instant, the few of them had the urge to become slave traders as well. However, when they thought of the hardships involved, how many enemies they had to make, and how powerful they had to be, they directly lowered their heads. This wasn't something an ordinary person could do. Sigh, I don't even have the qualifications to be a bad guy. Ziluan sighed softly. What are you saying? Chu Feng directly knocked on her white forehead. It was so painful that she almost cried. After understanding the situation, Chu Feng didn't dare to buy them. If he really bought from the universe's black market, he was afraid that all his cosmic dollars would be stolen and he wouldn't be able to get the goods. That was because he was now a notorious human trafficker. Many people had their eyes on him, and he reckoned that many people were treating him like a fat sheep. In a place like the universe's black market, there were no lack of villains and bullies. Those who didn't have a bit of confidence wouldn't dare enter the black market to trade. This was especially true for someone like him, who had no guarantee of success in the starry skies. You can look for the Origin Beast platform, but they'll charge an agency fee of 10%, Zhao Qing informed. Chu Feng gnashed his teeth. The Origin Beast platform's business was really extensive. The agency fee for a single pill was in the tens of billions. This was a bit crazy. In the end, for safety's sake, Chu Feng contacted the Origin Beast platform's people. He didn't want the universe's black market to treat him like a fat sheep and swallow his cosmic dollars. The Origin Beast platform people were astonished. Normally, only Golden Arhut level experts would buy the 6 paths of reincarnation pills. For Chu Feng to use it so early, it was so extravagant that it left people speechless. But soon, they understood what kind of place Earth was. It had just recovered from its decline. Chu Feng definitely wanted to evolve rapidly and catch up to the geniuses of the starry skies. That was why he was doing this at all costs. 2 6 paths of reincarnation pills cost 160 billion cosmic dollars. This was a sky-high price and a super transaction. In addition, Chu Feng had to pay an additional agency fee. The Origin Beast platform had given him the lowest price of 10%, but that was still 16 billion cosmic dollars. My heart hurts so much. Chu Feng's face was full of hidden bitterness. In the blink of an eye, 176 billion cosmic dollars were gone. In truth, he didn't have that much in his account. He had used the golden snake fruit and a portion of the heavenly flame elixir to make up for it. It was equivalent to selling a portion of heavenly treasures. That was because when he sold the divine sons and saintesses last time, he mainly received the hellish and elixir, secret manuals, and other physical objects. He didn't dare to exchange them for cosmic dollars for fear of being schemed against and ultimately freezing his account. Although this transaction made Chu Feng's heart ache, it could really help him solve a big problem and eliminate all kinds of hidden dangers. Yes, I don't need to worry even if I break through to the great circle of the carefree realm. I'll take another 6 paths of reincarnation pill later, and all my problems will be solved. Chu Feng said to himself. In this way, he wouldn't need to fear his natural enemies. He had just finished his transaction with the Origin Beast platform and hadn't withdrawn yet. In passing, he could use the platform to understand all kinds of new situations. On the star passage of Mount Yendang, a saint child was expressing his welcome to the Shilin clan's divine son Wei Lin and the mechanical Vajra. He was waiting to see them slaughter Chu Feng. Within the folded space of Mount Hua, there was also a saintess with a smile as beautiful as a flower. She shouted to the Netherworld race's descendant, saying that she wanted to see the Netherworld race display their divine might, subdue the planet's evolvers, and kill Chu Feng. These people were all visualization-level evolvers. They hadn't killed themselves and hadn't crossed over to Earth's main space. They were still on the star passage. I feel that we can take advantage of the time and harvest another batch of hard currency. Chu Feng laughed coldly, revealing his snow-white teeth. Then he immediately set off on his way. Chapter 533. The Shilin clan's divine son and the mechanical Vajra were about to arrive. They would all appear on Earth at noon the next day. Additionally, the Netherworld race's descendant was also about to arrive on the terrifying planet ranked 11th. The deity race's young god, Qin Luoyin, who was known to be even more powerful than the top 10 Dao children, were also about to arrive. All kinds of news gathered together and exploded the starry skies. It also caused the star passages behind the famed mountains on Earth to become restless. Many creatures couldn't remain calm. Some divine sons and saintesses were expressing goodwill and had already begun to welcome the deity race's young god, the Netherworld race's descendant, and other peerless race geniuses to Earth. The Shilin clan's divine son, Wei Lin, has appeared. This involves the fight for orthodoxy. There's no need to think too much. He'll definitely attack with all his might and kill Chu Feng. The Shilin clan needs a powerful storm to return to their mother planet. Unfortunately, Chu Feng will most likely become a stepping stone. Oh, it could be considered a grand meeting. The deity race's young god and the damming Pure Land's Qin Luoyin are rarely seen. Who would have thought they'd come to Earth? Will Fairy Qin really come? Wasn't it just a rumor that hasn't been confirmed? There was much discussion in the outside world. Every star passage was filled with clamor. Now, many divine sons and saintesses were looking forward to the start of a great battle to suppress Chu Feng. A considerable number of people were hostile toward Chu Feng because he had sold a large number of divine sons and saintesses not long ago. This led to a common enemy. Mount Hua was one of the birthplaces of ancient China civilization. The terrain was precipitous, and the mountains were as steep as the sky. After the upheavals, the mountains were like majestic swords, piercing straight into the clouds and enshrouded in mist. Add to that the strange rocks and the verdant ancient pines. Mount Hua appeared incomparably majestic and dangerous. It was different from the other famed mountains and was soul-stirring. Even in the depths of the mountains, within the vast folded space, those mountains that had just appeared stood tall, as if they had been cut by a knife. I can't help but sigh. This Chu Feng is a madman and extremely daring. I've never seen such a reckless person who dares to sell divine sons and saintesses. This is courting death. In the depths of Mount Hua, there was a vast expanse of pine forest, verdant and glistening. Clear springs gurgled, flowing over the rocks. Wu Tsangming sat beneath an emerald-green pine tree, listening to the gurgling of the clear spring and the rustling of the pines. He had a faint smile on his face as he commented on Chu Feng. He came from a high-ranking planet. As the saint child of a sect, his strength was very strong, and he had a unique understanding of the visualization realm. He was the strongest and most talented youth on Kanglan Star. He was very hostile towards Chu Feng and taunted, "Madness means destruction. If the gods want to destroy them, they must first make them mad. My guess is that he will die a horrible death." Someone chimed in and said, "Brother Tsangming is right. I've never seen such an ostentatious person. He dares to challenge the Holy Lands and sell their divine sons and saintesses. He's simply courting death. Don't look at how he's the center of attention right now and how the world is amazed. When the time comes, he'll fall into a bottomless abyss and be consigned to eternal damnation." In the depths of Mount Hua, there were many star passages connecting different galaxies. In the end, many of them converged together and appeared in the same folded space. At this moment, there were close to 10 divine sons and saintesses gathered together to discuss the current situation. Many of them revealed smiles as they believed that Chu Feng's end had come. A saintess smiled sweetly and said, "Even the deity race's young god has come. Who can match him? How can Chu Feng survive unless there's a miracle? But miracles don't happen that often. Moreover, Qin Luoyin from Damming Pure Land is also coming. She's already one of the top 10 young experts in the universe." At this point, she glanced at an exceptionally beautiful and quiet young lady not far away. The young lady's skin was as fair and sparkling as ivory. She was very tranquil and somewhat otherworldly, but she was very flirtatious when she smiled. At this moment, she was listening to their discussion without expressing her opinion. She was Hu Ruoxian, a fairy from Andromeda. Like Yangshan from Mount Yindang, they were both related to Chu Feng. The monastic robe that Chu Feng was wearing was given to him by Hu Ruoxian. So much so that Chu Feng's identity as the Heaven-Chosen One was due to Hu Ruoxian's sister and Yangshan's cousin. When Chu Feng went to the moon to receive the domain inheritance, he met Yangshan's cousin, Yang Xian, and Hu Ruoxian's sister, Hu Qingqing. At that time, in order to provoke them, Chu Feng even called Yang Xian his elder brother-in-law, and Hu Qingqing his sister-in-law. "Ruoxian, what do you think? Will this Chu Feng die a miserable death?" That saintess glanced at the quiet Hu Ruoxian and asked with a mocking smile, "Who can say for sure what will happen in the future? Let's just wait and see." Hu Ruoxian from Andromeda said with a smile. As expected, When she smiled, her elegant and otherworldly temperament immediately became somewhat flirtatious. There's no need to doubt. We can't guess other things, but this native Chu Feng's death is foreseeable. How can he survive? The Saint Child Wu Songming spoke once again. He sat there cross-legged and glanced at Hu Ruoxian. Fairy Hu, you stepped onto the Star Passage earlier. I heard you had some dealings with Chu Feng in the past. I don't think this is too good. You should draw the line as soon as possible. Otherwise, there might be a disaster. Hu Ruoxian smiled. Her eyes were bright and moving as she said, even if we really had some dealings, there's no need to be implicated. This starry sky isn't so terrifying that everyone feels insecure and restricted. Oh, then let's wait and see. First, let's see how Demon King Chu will be beheaded. Wu Songming said indifferently, with a far-sighted expression. He looked down at the distant mountain forest and said, the world is vast, but there are all kinds of red lines in this world that can't be crossed. A native from a declining land who wants to overturn the heavens is destined to die a miserable death. It was at this time that a figure arrived and stepped into the folded space. He walked through the white mist of the pine forest and suddenly appeared in front of the divine sons and saintesses. With a swoosh, Wu Songming jumped up. His body tensed up and his hair stood on end. Who did he see? Chu Feng, the native they had been talking about just now. This was really unreasonable. They had just been sneering behind his back and predicting that Chu Feng would die a miserable death. In the end, the main character had appeared in front of them, just like that. Saint Child Wu Songming, you point out the rivers and mountains and look down on the world. You foresee my miserable death with such an arrogant expression. I wonder if you've seen your own future? Chu Feng said calmly as he walked over step by step. His body was emitting a treasured glow, and his entire being was like a resplendent god of war. There was nothing more to say, and he was about to attack immediately. Everyone, what are you waiting for? Attack! Wu Songming shouted as he broke out in cold sweat. The others were also alarmed because in the past, Chu Feng had always been hunting divine sons and saintesses outside. Today, he had actually stepped into the folded space. He was too proactive. This meant that he was incomparably confident and dared to kill his way into the star passages. The saintess who had ridiculed Hu Ruoxian earlier also shouted, we haven't severed ourselves. We're all at the visualization realm. If we attack together, we won't be afraid of a carefree realm native. Let's attack together and kill him. Then these people all moved. They didn't believe in heresy. They were all the top young experts of their respective planets. There were 8 of them attacking together. Why would they be afraid of Chu Feng? Ha ha ha. Chu Feng burst into laughter. His hair was glowing and dancing in the wind as he took the initiative to attack first. Boom! At this moment, he didn't hold back at all. He had long since comprehended the deepest profundities of the Eastern Violet Chi Fist. Now that he was using it, it was simply terrifying. The sky was filled with violet chi as he stood in the folded space. Planets appeared as he brandished his fists. He was like a divine king pushing the celestial bodies in the heavens to attack the divine sons and saintesses of every path. This scene was somewhat terrifying. It was completely the path of invincibility. In the face of so many young visualization-level geniuses, Chu Feng actually had a disdainful attitude. He didn't have the slightest bit of fear as he attacked powerfully and proactively. Boom, boom, boom. A huge explosion occurred in the pine forest. Rubble pierced the sky, and the mountainous region was completely destroyed. The towering, sword-like mountain peaks were broken off one after another and fell down. Chu Feng's fist intent was peerless. He alone wanted to suppress 8 great experts. One had to know that these were visualization-level divine sons and saintesses. They were all genius-level entities. If it were a few days ago, he might have failed. But now, his conviction had erupted, and he was incomparably confident. That was because he had just taken the hellish An elixir and smeared the heavenly flame elixir. His physical strength and strength had increased by nearly 10 times. His current strength had increased by a large margin. But these people weren't ordinary visualization-level evolvers after all. They were geniuses from high-level planets. After going all out, they were incomparably troublesome. Even Chu Feng's expression changed slightly. He couldn't help but become incomparably serious. As he brandished his fists, he was still moving the planets. He looked like an incomparably dignified divine king, but those celestial bodies were different. They were very rough and simple. His stone ball energy body appeared and replaced the celestial phenomenon that appeared in the Eastern Violet Chi fist. In just a split second, his fist intent erupted with terrifying power. Bang! Wu Zongming flew out, and one of his arms exploded. He couldn't block Chu Feng's fist seal and was almost blown up in midair. The saintess with dense hostility staggered back with blood spurting out of her mouth and nose. Half of her body had been cracked by Chu Feng's fist seal, and she had suffered serious injuries. Next, Chu Feng combined the profundities of the deity race's flowing light fist and fused it into the Eastern Violet Chi fist. This increased the speed of his fist by a large margin, and his whole person moved like a beam of light. Combined with the world's end near at hand, it was simply a nightmare for these people. Bang, bang, bang. In the end, the 8 experts were all sent flying by Chu Feng. Blood flowed from their 7 apertures, and each of them was seriously injured. They lay on the ground, dripping with fresh blood. Chu Feng squinted his eyes. His physical strength had increased by nearly 10 times. He could withstand the attacks of visualization-level energy without using the resonance technique. Therefore, he took the initiative in this battle because he was much stronger than before. Chu Feng, the expressions of Wu Zongming and the others changed. That was because Chu Feng had sealed them and inserted profound magnetic needles into their bodies. Moreover, he had used metal chains to lock them up and tie them up. They didn't need to think to know that this human trafficker would definitely sell them off. This simply drove them crazy. Not long ago, they were still talking about Chu Feng. They even said that he was arrogant and deranged, that he dared to sell divine sons and saintesses. That was courting death. In the end, it was their turn now. This group of people was also going to be sold. Hi, Fairy Hu, long time no see. How have you been? Chu Feng greeted Hu Ruoxian, the only one who hadn't made a move. Hu Ruoxian looked at the string of divine sons and saintesses with an odd expression and said, I'm fine. Are you going to sell divine sons and saintesses again? It's so vulgar to mention selling. In fact, they're hard currency themselves and are even better than cosmic dollars. I'm a bit reluctant to sell them. Chu Feng sighed. The chained divine sons and saintesses were all furious. People of their statuses were actually hard currency in Chu Feng's eyes. Fairy Hu, I'm very grateful to you for the monastic robe. At the same time, I have a very good relationship with your sister. It can be said that we're bosom buddies. I have to repay you this time. Hu Ruoxian was speechless after hearing this. Her sister was about to die from anger. This demon called her sister his sister-in-law and was taking advantage of both of them at the same time. How could he have a nerve to say that they were bosom buddies? Look, this string of divine sons and saintesses. I'll give you some. Chu Feng said generously. How could Wu Zongming and the others endure this when the divine sons and saintesses were counted in strings? All of them had ashen expressions and were so angry that their bodies were taut. As for Hu Ruoxian, she shook her head and said, Forget about this kind of gift. I don't dare accept it. Chu Feng said, Just accept it. This is really hard currency. I'll keep a large group of them in the future and tie them into strings. I'll use them to pay for things when I buy things. Hu Ruoxian didn't know what to say. She wanted to laugh, but could only restrain herself for fear of provoking the string of divine sons and saintesses. I'm so angry. Wu Zongming coughed up large mouthfuls of blood and fainted from anger. The others were also purple in the face. They were suffering from holding it in. Since you don't want them, I'll keep them for myself. I'll give you some heavenly flame elixir. Chu Feng smiled and disappeared with a swoosh with the string of spoils. Afterward, he rushed to Mount Yindang and, after another round of attacks, captured 7 more divine sons and saintesses. This left Yangshan dumbfounded. That was because Chu Feng was also giving her hard currency. How could she accept it? In outer space, Yang Xian, Hu Qingcheng, and Qinglan were still watching Chu Feng closely. They looked as though they had seen a ghost after witnessing this scene. Hi, brother-in-law Yang Xian, sister-in-law Hu Qingcheng. Are you satisfied with what I've done? I'm a good friend, right? As Chu Feng was leaving Mount Yandang, he glanced toward outer space and said this. This immediately dumbfounded the three. At the same time, some of them were angry and humiliated. That day, Chu Feng went crazy. He launched sneak attacks on the star passages and captured over 30 people in one go. He tied them up into 5 strings and made them his so-called hard currency. Oh my God, this brat is crazy. I've never seen such a crazy fellow do such a thing. It's earth-shattering. In outer space, people were about to explode when they found out what Chu Feng had done. Previously, Chu Feng had concealed his aura with domains and tattered scrolls. He didn't want to be detected by the heavens' eye in order to avoid exposing himself too early and making it difficult to capture the divine sons and saintesses. But now he had captured too many people and could no longer hide it. It immediately caused a huge uproar. Many people were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped to the ground. This is his final madness. The deity race's young god is coming, and so are the netherworld race's young experts. Let's see how he breaks out of this. Someone was flustered and exasperated because their family's saintess had been captured. On this day, definite news arrived that Qin Luoyin was on her way. She had asked the Wormhole Express Company to open a super wormhole and spend a huge sum of cosmic dollars to appear directly outside of Earth. Chapter 534. Extra. Latest news. Demon Chu has crippled over 30 divine sons and saintesses. After this news spread, the families and sects behind these people felt as though they had been struck by lightning. To them, this was like a bolt from the blue. The starry skies were shaken. One had to know that these were geniuses from various planets. They came from the various holy lands and imperial dynasties and possessed extraordinary statuses. A group of divine sons and saintesses had been crippled. Everyone was dumbfounded. Although some people had said that Chu Feng was deranged in the past, many people knew that this was purely mocking him and wasn't the truth. But now, many people felt as though their heads were about to explode. They sincerely felt that Chu Feng had gone mad. However, the development of the situation was often unexpected. Chu Feng stood out immediately. He didn't ridicule the holy lands like before and didn't sprinkle salt on the wounds of the victims. He was refuting the rumors with a serious expression. Nonsense. He refuted them with righteous words and told the world that he hadn't done such a thing and that they shouldn't believe such nonsense. Rumor monger, you're despicable and shameless. Chu Feng was furious and then added on. People thought he was going to express his anger and berate the person who had tarnished his reputation. However, that wasn't the case at all. He explained with a serious expression, "Dear customers and buyers, please believe me. The divine sons and saintesses we've captured this time are of indisputable quality. I can guarantee on my honor that they haven't been crippled and are of extremely high quality." The starry skies became silent for a moment. Everyone was petrified. Then all that followed was a cacophony of curses, angry rebukes, and laughter. All sorts of noises interweaved together, and everything was in complete chaos. God damn it. Everyone thought he was going to righteously refute the rumor-monger and clarify the truth to explain how innocent he was. In the end, he was only afraid that his business would be affected and that he wouldn't be able to sell the divine sons and saintesses in his hands. That was why he stood out to refute the rumor-monger. Demon Chu, you're really a scoundrel, someone said in dissatisfaction. However, the people from the Holy Lands and the evolutionary sects all heaved a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as their divine sons and saintesses weren't crippled. Chu Feng spoke again. Everyone, allow me to explain. There was indeed a small accident this time. In order to bring those divine sons and saintesses into the main space of Earth, I cut off part of their cultivation and all of them fell to the carefree realm. But it's really not completely crippled. Demon Chu, you're so ruthless. Oh my god, my Qilin sun has been slashed from the peak of the visualization realm to the carefree realm. Those powerful evolutionary sects were hopping mad because it involved their own descendants. They had just relaxed not too long ago, but now their nerves were being ravaged again. Chu Feng quickly added and explained, "Everyone, please believe me. I guarantee that this batch of divine sons and saintesses will only be stronger than the last batch." In the universe, many life planets were unable to calm down. People were using places like the Origin Beast platform to start a heated discussion. It could be said to be very noisy. Chu Feng had just sold a group of divine sons and saintesses a few days ago. Today, he did something big again. He broke into the folded space and hunted down the heirs of the orthodoxies from the outer realm, cutting off their cultivation levels. Today's events were too sudden. Outside of Earth, Yang Xian, Hu Qingcheng, and Qinglan's expressions were complicated. That was because they knew that Chu Feng had used his photon computer to harass them along the way. The most hateful thing was that Chu Feng had pestered them with his golden account to add them as friends. The three of them didn't dare. If they were to become friends with him on the Origin Beast platform, they would probably be ganged up on and beaten up. I yearn for a battle. Who dares to compete with me? In the end, Chu Feng challenged the people on the various star passages. He indeed wanted to enter the final phase of the battle because he was about to break through. At this moment, he was still thinking of using the battle to consolidate his foundation. He wanted a fierce battle because he felt that his recent evolution was too violent and rapid. He lacked the corresponding level of stability. Although he had already purchased the six-path reincarnation pill, he still had to wait for a few days. It simply hadn't arrived in the mail. Unfortunately, Chu Feng was disappointed. He had caused such a big commotion and had already hunted down over 30 divine sons and saintesses. Who would dare fight him? Chu Feng sighed and disappeared from everyone's sight. He was going to eat the cinnabar fruit and break through to the highest level of the carefree realm. The Shilin clan's divine son and the mechanical Vajra would arrive at noon the next day. He wouldn't be careless and had to upgrade himself to the great circle of the carefree realm at this critical juncture. Chu Feng laid down a domain on Mount Yindang to prevent people from spying on him. When the sunset glow appeared, he had successfully broken through. His physical body and spirit had undergone a super evolution and his strength had increased sharply. Most importantly, his painting scroll was also being perfected. Night fell and the sky was filled with stars. Beam after beam of starlight fell from the outer realm and drowned Chu Feng. The starlight baptized his physical body and his entire being became hazy. Chu Feng suddenly opened his eyes after midnight. They were like two immortal swords flying out and tearing through the night sky. It was extremely splendid. The great circle of the carefree realm could no longer advance. If he wanted to evolve further, he would be at the visualization realm. Chu Feng felt that his condition was excellent. Although he didn't have the six-path reincarnation pill to take, he didn't feel any discomfort. His evolutionary foundation was very stable. At this moment, the cells in his body were very active. His entire body was glowing as he washed away the sticky liquid excreted from his body in the clear spring. When a person's body was like glazed divine gold and emitted a sweet fragrance, this was the embodiment of the body's toughness and power. Whether it was the Tao race or the Buddhist race, this was a characteristic that had transcended the mortal body. It was a treasure body, and the body's great medicine had taken shape. Afterwards, Chu Feng used high-energy food to replenish his body's needs and consolidate the results of his evolution. At the first glimmer of dawn, Chu Feng's physical body and spirit were all intact and growing stronger. At this time, he produced a shiny and radiant object. It was precisely the silver box he had taken from Mount Qinling. It was also the item that the True One's party had coveted. This time, Chu Feng did everything he could to open the silver box. That was because Yao Yao had told him that the robbery induction breathing technique he had learned was only suitable for the carefree realm and that it wasn't perfect yet. Chu Feng guessed that the silver box's sealing technique needed him to evolve to the corresponding level. Only when he truly needed the follow-up robbery induction breathing technique would he have the ability to open it. When he went all out and his whole body gushed with golden energy, he was like a sun that was exceptionally resplendent before dawn. Crack! In the end, Chu Feng succeeded. The silver box was opened, and this moment was ushered in after he exhausted all his strength. A scripture appeared and was branded on a very thin and soft rare beast skin. It rose into the air, and then all the words rushed out, transforming into a ray of light and entering the space between Chu Feng's brows. At the same time, the beast skin burned and completely disappeared. It didn't matter even if many generations had passed and the words were already very different. That was because this was a technique imprint, and Chu Feng firmly remembered it in his heart. He immediately understood that he wouldn't be able to open the silver box if he hadn't evolved to the great circle of the carefree realm. In addition, there was another prerequisite, and that was to master the robbery induction breathing technique. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to open the silver box if he wasn't compatible with it. Chu Feng pondered over the breathing technique in the silver box and felt that it was somewhat different. There was a follow-up to the robbery induction breathing technique. Moreover, the technique imparted in this chapter was somewhat different from the one imparted by Yellow Cattle. There were only a few places, so the problem wasn't too big. Chu Feng was astonished. He completely followed this breathing technique. After experiencing it for a while, he felt that this was the correct one. The technique imparted by Yellow Cattle had a few very small flaws. This wasn't the main point. The small flaws weren't very serious. The main point was that he had obtained the corresponding technique to the great circle of the carefree realm, and there was even a follow-up chapter. After circulating it like this, his whole body felt comfortable and his mind was refreshed. Before the great battle, I actually grasped the correct and flawless robbery induction breathing technique. Moreover, there's a follow-up chapter. Chu Feng was overjoyed. He was extremely happy. When the sun rose and the rosy dawn appeared, the warm rays sprinkled down. Chu Feng faced the rays and began to circulate the new breathing technique. After removing a few small flaws, it's become smoother and more powerful than before. Chu Feng was moved. After correcting the secret technique, the results were surprisingly good. At the same time, due to the appearance of the follow-up chapter, Chu Feng's circulation of the breathing technique seemed even more divine. He was shrouded in a golden divine splendor. When the sun rose very high, Chu Feng had long since stopped. He stood silently in the rosy dawn and comprehended for a long time. He was convinced that he was stronger than before and had adjusted himself to his peak state. With a new breathing technique, I'm even stronger. Chu Feng was full of confidence, and his divine eyes were like lightning. Chapter 535. Within the solar system, a wormhole opened near Neptune. Following that, petals fluttered in the air as a large amount of sparkling light rained down, filling this cold space with vitality and brilliance. This place was originally deathly silent, but now it was no longer so. Living beings came out of the wormhole with an auspicious aura, illuminating the dark cosmos. It wasn't just one person. It was a team consisting of mostly young women and a small number of young men. All of them were extraordinary, and most of them were dressed in white, looking clean and otherworldly. There was a lustrous blue carriage that seemed to be carved from a large piece of light blue gemstone. This was a rare treasure material, and the carriage was pulled by 4 tall divine steeds. There wasn't a single strand of hair on their bodies. Their bodies were flawless, and their sideburns were very long. One head was like a raging golden flame, another was lustrous purple, and the last was emitting a silvery white radiance. A young woman was lying lazily on her side in the lustrous blue carriage. She was very casual as she supported her chin with her hand. Nearby, There were more than 20 people guarding the carriage. They were all young men and women, all dressed in white and untainted by the mortal world. Only the woman in the carriage stood out from the crowd. She was dressed in colorful clothes and stood out from the crowd. She was beautiful and spirited as she stood out from the crowd. The people from Damning Pure Land had arrived. Although the super wormhole they opened cost a lot of cosmic dollars, it could greatly shorten the journey. This wasn't something ordinary orthodoxies could afford. Those were dragon-scaled celestial horses. Normally, they were used by quasi-saints to pull carriages. This woman hadn't reached that level yet, but she had the qualifications to use them. This was because she was Qin Luoyin. This woman was considered to be one of the top 10 young experts in the cosmos. Her reputation was simply too great, and her status and identity were extraordinary. Reportedly, there was once a supreme Tao child from the top 10 planets who proposed a marriage alliance to Damning Pure Land through the elders of his race. He wanted to marry Qin Luoyin, but he failed in the end. Qin Luoyin lay on the soft mattress of the carriage, displaying her slender and perfect figure. Her colorful clothes couldn't hide her moving curves, and her beautiful purple hair draped over her shoulders. She was languid and gentle. Unfortunately, her true appearance couldn't be seen because she wore a multicolored mask that covered the legendary beauty that could make even the sun lose its splendor. She was hailed as the 6th most beautiful woman in the starry sky. She had a peerless appearance, and anyone who saw her would find it hard to forget. From her snow-white neck, one could see her flawless skin that was sparkling and translucent, a natural beauty. Her eyes were sparkling and extremely beautiful, possessing a type of indescribable spirituality. "We're finally here," Qin Luoyin said. Her voice was pleasing to the ear and stirring the heart. They entered the solar system and came out of the super wormhole. They were not too far away from Earth. For the rest of the journey, they could open a small wormhole or directly cross it. Neptune was a place with a special significance. In the past, it was considered one of the few gateways to Earth, a super vital planet. It welcomed the worship of all races, but now, anyone could approach it. Damning Pure Land's fairy Qin has appeared. The news spread as soon as possible. The Heaven's Eye on the Origin Beast platform had been monitoring the ancient portals on Earth all along. Now that it had discovered people from the Damning Pure Land, it immediately caused a commotion. The rumors from before had been proven true. Qin Luoyin had really come. There's no doubt that Fairy Qin has appeared near Earth to find trouble with Chu Feng and settle accounts with him. People immediately made this judgment because Chu Feng had kidnapped her distant cousin. Earlier on, the Damning Pure Land had sent out golden invitations to the most famous young talents in the starry skies. They would bestow upon them fortunes, and the luckiest would be chosen as Qin Luoyin's Tao companion. Originally, Chu Feng had also received a golden invitation. However, Qin Luoyin immediately denied him the opportunity to enter the Pure Land after learning of this. Fairy Luoyin has appeared. I support you unconditionally. No matter what, I hope Saintess Luoyin's journey will go smoothly. She's the goddess in my heart. One had to admit that Qin Luoyin's name had shaken the starry skies. Her popularity was frighteningly high. She would cause a sensation no matter where she appeared and become a hot topic. The main reason was that her influence was too great. Countless young people were attracted by her elegant demeanor and were stunned by her beauty and strength. They gasped in admiration and even worshipped her. Even the older generation paid special attention to her. The regular legendary guests favored her greatly. In their eyes, she was the proud daughter of the generation. They believed that she was destined to rise up and look down on the universe. In the eyes of the older generation's villains and demons, Qin Luoyin was one of the women they wanted to conquer and abduct the most. Apparently, they hadn't even met in the first battle. In terms of fame, Chu Feng had suffered a complete defeat. Chu Feng was also very famous. Everyone under the starry skies knew what he had done recently. But in terms of status and prestige, he wasn't on the same level as Qin Luoyin. Qin Luoyin's popularity was at the universal idol level. Her position among the young evolvers was difficult to shake. Only a few people like Xian could compare to her. Fairy Luoyin, you're the most perfect goddess in my heart. Although I admire Chu Feng a bit, I still support you. Please subdue that demon. It's fine if you don't kill him, but capture him to feed the horses, chop firewood, and take him as a servant. The Origin Beast platform was boiling over with all kinds of heated discussions. Chu Feng felt his teeth ache after hearing this. This was someone who admired him a bit, yet they were all following Qin Luoyin so one-sidedly. He really wanted to ask what would happen if he didn't admire her. In truth, he didn't need to ask. He could hear it from the clamor just by listening attentively. The most stunning goddess in the starry skies, please kill Demon Chu. Don't give him the chance to speak. Stomp him to the ground and let him die. Goddess, please use the supreme immortal method of entering the Tao through dreams. Let him repent in his nightmares, tremble, and submit. Then he'll commit suicide under the starry skies. Chu Feng was furious because he saw some acquaintances shouting the same thing. He said furiously, "Old Demon Shun, you come here every time to bid for the sanuses of high-ranking planets. You claim to have a close relationship with me and wanted to give you a discount. You can be considered an old customer. Why are you suggesting this at the critical moment? Are you going to break off relations with me?" Old Demon Chun refused to apologize. "Isn't it because I've never bought a saintess from you?" The so-called discount never materialized. Moreover, the most important thing is that Luoyin is a flawless goddess in our hearts. Which old monster doesn't want to capture and conquer her? Even 100 saintesses from high-ranking planets can't compare to one of her fingers. You shameless old man. How old are you? You can only be young at heart, but you can achieve it. Chu Feng rebuked. "Little thief, how dare you curse me? What are you talking about? Your mouth is too poisonous. Let me tell you, my constitution is peerless. I can give birth even if I live for another 100,000 years. Don't you think so, Demon King Zhao?" Chu Feng threatened him after hearing this. "Demon King Zhao, you're actually on the same side as old Demon Qin? You have to know that your granddaughter Zhao Qing is still in my hands. How can this old man lower his head? What goddess? If I like her, I'll just snatch her away." Demon King Zhao said arrogantly. Chu Feng nodded. This old fellow was indeed unyielding. But very soon, Demon King Zhao sent him a private message. "Do you want to join hands with this old man to capture her? I'll hurry over and we'll hunt together." Chu Feng was dazed. In the end, he let out a long sigh. "You're also shameless. This old man is serious. I'm prepared to join hands with old Demon Chun and old Demon Yuan to kill their way to your starry sky. We'll ambush those from the damning Pure Land and capture Qin Luoyin alive. It'll be best if you can cooperate with us." Demon King Zhao told him that old Demon Chun was just shooting his mouth off. His true objective was to cross the starry sky and hunt Qin Luoyin. Chu Feng was astonished. "I don't see you worried, even though your granddaughter Zhao Qing is in my hands. Now you're in the mood to ambush Qin Luoyin." Demon King Zhao said calmly, "My granddaughter has been raised well by you. She has a rare treasure like the heavenly flame elixir to use every day. What's there for me to worry about? Go and find out if Zilwan's family's old devil Z is also very at ease and doesn't even want to save that little girl." Chu Feng immediately felt as though his heart had been stabbed. He flew into a rage out of humiliation and said, "Fine. After today, I'll go find your granddaughter Zhao Qing and old Demon Z's granddaughter Zilwan to consummate their marriage. Do you really think I'm helping you raise your granddaughter? Damn it." Demon King Zhao said calmly, "There are a few old demons who are quite satisfied with you. We'll talk about this later. Right now, we can discuss whether we can join hands to ambush Qin Luoyin." At this time, old Demon Chun was shouting, "Fairy Qin, you must eliminate that little thief, Chu Feng." Chu Feng clenched his teeth and asked Demon King Zhao, "I really want to know if old Demon Chen's granddaughter is on Earth." Demon King Zhao whispered to him. The Origin Beast platform was in a hubbub of voices. A vast number of people supported Qin Luoyin's crusade against Chu Feng. Before long, Chu Feng felt Demon King Zhao's iron-blooded and cold side. This time a saint might fall. Many people will die. Chu Feng frowned. He had a premonition that Qin Luoyin's trip to Earth wasn't just for him. The damning Pure Land might have a grudge with some old demons and wanted to lure them out to launch a fatal attack. The old demons were all ruthless people. They knew there might be something fishy going on, so they had to take action. If we succeed in the outer realms and join forces to kill some of the old monsters from the damning Pure Land, it might cause Qin Luoyin to hide in the main space of Earth and not dare to come out. At that time, it'll be up to you. Yes, let me warn you first. Don't touch the heavily injured Qin Luoyin in case you hunt her down. This is a woman that the Prince of the Ten Greats has taken a fancy to. Give her to him as a gift. Demon King Zhao's tone was sinister and bloody. This time, many people might die. It wasn't a simple hunt and involved many powers. Chu Feng was apprehensive. The situation was very complicated and not as simple as it seemed on the surface. The origin demon race was one of the 10 greats. Their strength was boundlessly terrifying, and their origin demon breathing technique was one of the most powerful breathing techniques in the universe. Everyone should act according to their own methods. Why should I give away the prey I caught? Afterwards, Chu Feng turned his attention back to what was happening in the starry skies. He was being denounced on the Origin Beast platform. All kinds of crimes were listed, and he was known as the most notorious human trafficker in history. Qin Luoyin, on the other hand, had attracted the support of mountains and seas. Her charm was peerless. A divine son or saintess from a high-ranking planet was extremely popular. Qin Luoyin, on the other hand, was ranked among the 10 greats in the universe. Her status was too high. Add to that her identity as the 6th peerless beauty under the starry skies. Her popularity was unparalleled. Chapter 536. The Origin Beast platform focused on live broadcasts and was famous throughout the universe. Naturally, its communication capabilities were quite advanced. Chu Feng greeted the damning Pure Land descendant with a smile. Everyone, you finally arrived. The originally clamorous platform fell into a momentary silence. Moments later, heated discussions arose once more. Demon Chu has appeared. Look at his lecherous eyes. He's not a good person at all. Chu Feng was hurt. Such a handsome face and a pair of clear eyes was actually being mocked? Of course, he had always been narcissistic. But in the past, the onlookers were quite supportive of him, hoping that he would sell divine sons and saintesses. In the end, he was attacked as soon as he came up. Hey, that brother with your mouth full of saliva. Who are you talking about? You ginseng rooster? Chu Feng glared at him and then revealed an odd expression. Oh, I remember now. Aren't you the one who wanted to buy Luo Miaoxiang from me last time? Let me tell you, 2 drops of deity elixir and 2 drops of hellish elixir, not a single drop less. Otherwise, I won't sell. That young man wanted to cough up blood after hearing this. He hurriedly explained under the disdainful gazes of some people, saying that there was no such thing. But the group's expressions were odd, and they didn't believe him. He felt that he was about to die of injustice. Then, he saw his female companion throw a disdainful expression and leave, telling him not to look for her in the future. Demon Chu, I can't live under the same sky as you. The young man shouted and anxiously chased after his female companion. One had to know that he had just started pursuing her. Chu Feng was quite calm. He ignored him and spoke directly to Qin Luoyin of the damning Pure Land. Hi, goddess, long time no see. I miss you very much. Then the group felt dizzy. Why did it sound like a greeting between acquaintances? Many people were dumbfounded, especially the phrase, miss you very much. It made the group feel that he was courting death because it sounded like he was flirting with her. Demon, do you know Fairy Qin? You're courting death. People believed that he couldn't possibly know Qin Luoyin because he had never left Earth. He was probably flirting with her. For a moment, all kinds of saliva almost drowned Chu Feng. Those from the damning Pure Land were astonished and curious, especially the junior sisters by Qin Luoyin's side. They hadn't expected Chu Feng to be so audacious. At this moment, Qin Luoyin was no longer lying on her side like a sleeping beauty. She had already sat up and was clad in a brightly colored dress. She appeared even more extraordinary among the group of white-clothed men and women. She was especially beautiful and quick-witted under the contrast of this group of otherworldly men and women. Her beautiful purple hair draped over her shoulders, and she wore a five-colored mask. Her eyes were beautiful and sparkling, as if they could see through one's heart. She looked at Chu Feng. Chu Feng was stunned. Even if he couldn't see her true appearance, her eyes would leave an unforgettable impression. They were like purple gems that emitted a spiritual radiance. They could be said to be exceptionally beautiful. This kind of demeanor was indeed outstanding and peerless. Qin Luoyin's beautiful purple hair fluttered as she gazed at him. Her entire body was emitting a faint halo of light, and her eyes were brilliant. It was as if she wanted to see through all of Chu Feng's secrets. Chu Feng was also sizing her up with an odd expression. He felt that this woman wasn't simple at all, but he wasn't the least bit intimidated. He wouldn't be polite even if she was the sixth beauty under the heavens, because she was targeting him. In truth, there was a special evaluation system in Chu Feng's heart for divine sons and saintesses. There were three types of people: those who had already been sold, those who were in the process of being sold, and those who would be sold in the future. If others were to know of his thoughts, they would definitely curse him for being an evil creature. At present, the goddess in everyone's hearts had been temporarily classified by Chu Feng as someone to be sold in the future. Yes, she should be able to stay. She's one of the most beautiful women in the universe. She can add fragrance to your sleeves, warm the bed, and pour tea. He didn't say these words out loud. Otherwise, a group of hot-blooded youths would fight it out with him if people from the damning Pure Land were to hear that he wanted Qin Luoyin to tidy up his bed. Little Qin, come, let's discuss a business deal. In the end, Chu Feng spoke. Everyone in the starry skies was speechless. As expected of Demon King Chu, his actions were unexpected. He even called her Little Qin. Only he would dare to deal with Goddess Qin so indifferently. Qin Luoyin's eyes were extremely beautiful. Her long eyelashes blinked slightly as she stared at him. Was this the native she had rejected? He seemed a bit different from the others. He wasn't as cautious, and passionate as they were. Chu Feng spoke once again. Little Qin, regarding your cousin, I'll give you a fixed price. 2 drops of deity elixir and a 6-path reincarnation pill. Everyone was stunned and then sighed ruefully. If others were to meet Qin Luoyin, they would surely find all sorts of excuses to approach her and praise her. However, this fellow immediately started extorting Qin Luoyin. He was fairly direct and sold out her cousin. No matter how they looked at it, he was wasting the zither and cooking the crane. He didn't understand the zither at all and made everyone speechless. Qin Luoyin's gaze was deep. Among the 10 most beautiful women in the starry skies, some were already married, some were engaged, and less than half were still single. Even the Tao children of the top 10 planets were moved by Qin Luoyin. In the end, it was this demon's turn to extort her without discussion. Little Qin, what do you think? If you agree, we'll make a deal on the spot. If you don't care about your cousin, I'll be a good person to the end and take her in as a concubine. Everyone was astonished after hearing this. Everyone understood that he was forcing her to abdicate. If Qin Luoyin agreed, it would be extortion. If she didn't, it would be a bad reputation for not saving her cousin. However, marrying Qin Luoyin's cousin would also be a beautiful story. Someone thought so. Set out. Our destination is Earth. Qin Luoyin spoke. She didn't reply to Chu Feng and set out once again. This time, he opened a miniature wormhole and quickly set off from Neptune. Very soon, there was a flash of light outside Earth as a blue carriage appeared. The group from the damning Pure Land had arrived. Everyone was moved. Was Qin Luoyin going to descend to Earth's main space personally? Seeing how decisive she was, it was very likely. Fairy Chin, I didn't expect you to be one step ahead of me. I wanted to come here to welcome you first. At this time, a new wormhole opened in another region and a large number of people walked out. There were hundreds of them, and many of them were riding on mounts or in chariots. The rumbling was deafening. This was a group of extremely powerful people. Each and every one of them was clad in shiny armor and holding heavenly axes and spears. They were like a group of heavenly soldiers descending to the mortal world. The deity race's young god had arrived. His whole body was emitting a dazzling golden light, and his long golden hair was draped over his shoulders. He was tall and emitting a divine splendor that caused the void to tremble. Many people's hearts trembled, and they couldn't help but want to kneel down and worship him. He was like a god descending to earth. The others weren't his servants, but experts from various races. They were all geniuses, and many of them were divine sons and saintesses. They had followed him here. This was definitely a terrifying group of people. Only a young god from the top 10 could have such a powerful rallying power to gather such a group. Young god. Qin Luoyin stood on the carriage and politely returned the greeting. The deity race's young god wore a smile on his face. His golden hair danced in the wind, and he was dazzling. His whole body was enveloped in a blazing divine splendor that was exceptionally gorgeous. Chu Feng, are you courting death? At this time, the deity race's young god suddenly launched an attack against Chu Feng. How dare you be disrespectful to Fairy Chin? On Earth, Chu Feng's gaze was cold. The great enemy had finally arrived. He didn't get angry. Instead, he said calmly, "Who do you think you are? The deity's flesh tastes pretty good. Did you cross millions and millions of light years to come from the depths of the universe just to deliver meat?" Unexpectedly, the deity race's young god didn't get angry. His long golden hair danced in the wind, and the aura he emitted became more and more terrifying, causing the outer space to tremble. He said calmly, "Interesting. Back then, your ancestors dared to speak to my deity race like this. After a long time, your race has completely declined, except for the Shilin clan. You actually have such courage. No wonder you're a descendant of that group of people back then." Boom! Suddenly, the 5 energy pagodas in outer space rotated and erupted with dazzling light. "Descend to Earth. Our Shilin clan has returned." Such a voice came from outer space, and the energy fluctuations were intense. It was noon. The Shilin clan's divine son Wei Lin, the mechanical Vajra, and the others led their troops and dived toward Earth's main space. They were truly crossing over. Chapter 537. The sky was dark blue and cloudless for tens of thousands of kilometers. But suddenly, a field of electromagnetic light appeared, followed by lightning and thunder. In the blink of an eye, an extremely dazzling blue radiance seemed to have pierced through the firmament. The tranquility of the clear blue sky was broken. For a moment, it was like a piece of sparkling and translucent glass had been torn apart. The sky was filled with cracks, and there was an incomplete beauty in it. Then, a huge sound rumbled high up in the sky. There was a glaring blue light there, forming a cave that connected to outer space. It seemed to be releasing terrifying electricity. Then, the blue light rotated like a storm and exploded fiercely. It was like the opening of a special wormhole. It's here. An enormous storm is coming. On the eastern sea, a small boat with lush green leaves and branches was fresh and natural. Yuchi Kong and another person covered in mist were sitting cross-legged on the boat. They were very relaxed and leisurely, looking up at the sky as if this matter didn't concern them. They had a completely detached attitude and had no intention of taking action. They were watching the development of the situation with faint smiles at the corners of their mouths. In the sky, the glaring electromagnetic storm and the terrifying blue light grew more and more intense. It was as if a field of heavenly fire was burning. Then, scorching lightning flew out and tore apart the void. Boom! The multicolored light was gorgeous as a special energy gushed out from the passage like an inverted volcano. It immediately surged with a mysterious power like blazing magma, causing the sky to distort. Kill! Chu Feng had long since soared into the sky and charged toward the firmament. He knew where the group was going to descend and attack decisively. He didn't wait for them to truly cross over. He wanted to intercept them halfway and cause them great trouble. In outer space, many people were watching intently. The Shilin clan and machine race descended at the same time. This scene was very powerful, and all of them were visualization-level entities crossing over. A great explosion resounded through the firmament. Amidst the electromagnetic storm, aurora, and terrifying lightning, the multicolored divine light rotated and formed an energy vortex. It enveloped a few living beings and appeared high up in the Earth sky. This was the Shilin clan's 5 elemental energy pagoda, displaying its might and releasing its radiance to protect these people safely entering and leaving the Earth's main space. Time flies and the years fly by. Our Shilin clan has finally returned. Our ancestors once said that this is ultimately our territory, our back garden. One day, our king will return. Inside the 5-colored energy whirlpool, someone had a cold smile on his face. With a lofty posture, he steadied himself in the whirlpool. Yong Chong of the Shilin clan, as the true master of this planet, returns today. There were still people who spoke like this, carrying cold intent and suppressed laughter. They were well aware of some of this planet's secrets, and now they had returned to claim them. Boom! Chu Feng charged over amidst the torrential energy and glaring radiance. From a great distance away, he held a dilapidated and old bronze spear in his hand and abruptly hurled it out. This was a very powerful damaged weapon. A small part of it had already been broken, but the light it was emitting now was exceptionally dazzling and strange. Amidst the green radiance, a ghostly face appeared on the bronze spear. With a mournful cry, it tore through the sky and disappeared into the passageway leading to the heavens. It was like a great earthquake. This time, Chu Feng had hunted down over 30 divine sons and saintesses. He had plundered some powerful secret treasures from their bodies. Some of them looked unremarkable and were damaged weapons, but they could unleash a destructive attack. It was precisely because they were damaged and half-crippled that they could be brought into the Earth's main space. Apparently, the powerful bronze spear would also self-destruct after this attack. Boom! In the sky, the blue light was broken. The multicolored energy whirlpool was violently disturbed and shook. It was like a meteor had smashed into the vast ocean, causing great waves to overturn the sky. Bang! In the sky, the whirlpool formed by the 5 elemental energy pagoda had shattered the passageway, protecting the Shilin clan and the machine race. It suffered a huge impact, and some people fell out on the spot. Someone cried out in alarm and revealed a look of fear. The 5 elemental energy pagoda was close to Earth because they were once the inheritance pagoda of an incomparably powerful imperial dynasty. That was why they could protect the creatures and safely descend today. But now, a certain balance had been broken. A young man from the Shilin clan fell out. His body was glowing and slightly burning. He hadn't been completely recognized by the Earth's main space when he was shaken out. Additionally, 2 machine race members were also sent flying and landed outside. Boom! Light blossomed in Chu Feng's hand as a small gray mountain broke in half. At first, it was only as tall as a fist, but now it was enlarged and flew out. It crashed into the multicolored energy whirlpool and continued to attack those people. At the same time, he himself rushed over to deal with the 3 people who had fallen out. There was a large halberd in his right hand. He was like a divine king as he swooped down and hacked down. "How dare you?" The young man from the Shilin clan roared and resisted with all his might. His body was still burning with raging flames, and he hadn't adapted to this space yet. He could only meet the enemy in a hurry. A silver shield appeared in front of his arm, and with a flash between his brows, his spiritual power rose sharply as he shot out a flying sword. Clang! Chu Feng erupted with peerless energy and used the heavenly halberd 9 forms with all his might. The large silver halberd was like a shining sun, and its radiance split the firmament. The flying sword was cut in half and let out a mournful cry as it collapsed and fell from the sky. Crack! The silver shield was like a piece of paper as it was cut into two by the halberd's sharp blade. Uft! Following which, there was a flash of bloody light as Chu Feng's halberd fell and cut off the man's shoulder. His entire body was cut into two, and he let out a mournful wail as a rain of blood swirled in the air. The first attack of the heavenly halberd 9 forms lit up the sky with a cold light. It was like a cold comet traversing the sky. The Shilling Clan man was torn to pieces. Both his flesh and spirit were destroyed, and only his pained howls reverberated through the sky. Swoosh! Chu Feng's speed was too fast. He flew out at the same time as he finished cutting down the man. The large halberd in his hand swept forward and attacked the 2 machine race members at the same time. Kill! The 2 metal men roared. Their bodies went cold after seeing the Shilin clan man's tragic death. They brandished their shiny long blades and, like 2 streaks of lightning, hacked at Chu Feng. Bang! Chu Feng was still holding the large halberd in one hand, and his sweeping momentum didn't decrease at all. His other hand smashed forward with even more terrifying might. His left fist exploded like a small sun, and the ball of light swelled and enlarged. Then, with a loud boom, it drowned out everything in front of it. Clang, clang. The 2 shiny long blades were split open and shattered in the air, turning into pieces of metal fragments. One had to know that they were made of some rare materials. The 2 metal life forms panicked. Just now, they had fought with their lives on the line and attacked Chu Feng without a care in the world, hoping that he would withdraw his halberd. In the end, Chu Feng had broken their most incisive attack with a single punch. His fist had smashed the secret gold long blades and exploded them. Crack! Amidst the glaring sparks, Chu Feng had cut their metal bodies in half at the waist. Then, with a jolt of the halberd, the 2 metal men let out blood-curdling screams as they collapsed and turned into pieces of metal. They had died a miserable death. Boom! At the same time, the small gray mountain Chu Feng had tossed out earlier enlarged. From the size of a fist, it rapidly turned into a giant energy mountain peak and smashed into the multicolored vortex, interfering with the Shilin clan and machine race members crossing over. Bang! This time, only one of the Shilin clan members was shaken out. Chu Feng rushed over and attacked with all his might. With a puff, the man was cut into 2 along with his weapon, and blood splattered everywhere. Meanwhile, the passageway in the sky had finally stabilized. The Shilin race's divine, Sun Wei Lin's voice was bone-piercingly cold as he said, "Chu Feng, you're very good. You're quite brave. You killed people for my race before you died." He brought the other young experts of the Shilin clan and stood together with the machine race members. They withstood the pressure of the Earth's space and gradually adapted to it. This energy pagoda of 5 elements was indeed extraordinary. What a pity that I only killed 4. Chu Feng was regretful. In the outer realms, all parties had different reactions. In just a short while, the Shilin clan and machine race had suffered losses. It could be said that they were at a disadvantageous start as each of their young geniuses had fallen. In the cosmos, everyone could sense Chu Feng's determination. He was going to fight until blood soared into the heavens. He and the Shilin clan were irreconcilable enemies, and he wouldn't rest until one side was exterminated. This was completely different from his playful and angry temperament in the past. At this time, on Earth, whether it was the descenders from before or the evolvers of their original bodies, all of them were greatly shaken. All the corporations were restless and terrified. They knew that this was a major event. The Shilin clan had come. Were they going to become the orthodoxy of Earth? On Mount Putah, Jiang Luoshan gazed at the sky with a complicated expression. Chu Feng was only one person, yet he had to face all the enemies. This time was different from the past. Could he survive? Brother, you must hold on this time. On Mount Longhu, the Mastiff King, the Old Llama, and the Horse King were all worried. That was because the deity race's young god was behind the Shilin clan. The enemies were incomparably powerful, and there were many of them. At this moment, even the remnant races in the secret realms of Penglai and Fangzhong were apprehensive. They couldn't calm down. They knew very well how terrifying the Shilin clan was back then. That army was an uncontrollable butcher's knife. Our Penglai lineage welcomes the return of the Shilin clan. We will take control of Earth and become the orthodoxy here. In the end, the Penglai clan expressed their stance, and their voice shook the heavens. In a split second, the outer realms were thrown into chaos and greatly shaken. Some of the evolvers in the Earth's native secret realms directly surrendered. Good. Penglai, you're not bad. The Shilin clan's divine son revealed a faint smile. His voice reverberated through the heavens like a clap of thunder, seemingly encouraging the related races. Greetings, Shilin clan divine son. We welcome the return of the orthodox bloodline. The Fangzhong secret realm acknowledges allegiance. In the Eastern Sea, the important characters in the Fangzhong secret realm expressed their stance and sent people to welcome them. Under the starry skies, everyone was discussing spiritedly. In the heavens, Chu Feng's figure seemed somewhat lonely. He stood alone in the sky, facing the Shilin clan and the machine race from the outer realms. In addition, he also had to face many native evolvers. Do you see? Our Shilin clan is the orthodoxy of Earth. Who can compare to the purity of our bloodline? Now that we've returned, it's everyone's wish. The Shilin clan's divine son, Wei Lin, held a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. He was somewhat cold as he stared at Chu Feng. Then he looked toward the blue sea and sky and surveyed the entire planet. He was in high spirits. Our Ingzhou secret realm welcomes the return of the Shilin army. We welcome the divine son. At this time, another power had surrendered and its voice was heard. The three immortal islands had all acknowledged allegiance. Not only that, but there were also several secret realms on the continent that expressed their willingness to welcome the Shilin clan's return. The return of the heavens. Wei Xian, the younger sister of the Shilin clan's divine son, also smiled. She was beautiful and moving, but the smile on her face was somewhat cruel. In the Eastern Sea, Yu Qikong was sitting cross-legged on an emerald-green bamboo boat. There was also a person shrouded in white mist sitting quietly. The water on the small red clay stove was already boiling. They had steeped a pot of divine tea, and the fragrance was rising in spirals as it floated in the air. The two of them were still peaceful and had no intention of coming out into the world. In the starry skies, the deity race's young god laughed heartily. There were hundreds of people around him, shouting and neighing. They were either riding vicious beasts or sitting in chariots. They were all divine sons and saintesses from various races, and all of them had astonishing backgrounds. Someone suggested, "This is a distinguished meeting that mustn't be missed. Let's all descend and attend the ceremony." The deity race's young god nodded and said, "In the current starry skies, who still knows that the previous races of this planet only recognize the Shilin clan?" Following which, he transmitted his voice downward and said, "Brother Wei Lin, there's no need to rush into a life and death battle. This is a grand occasion. The Shilin clan's return will be witnessed by all the races of the heavens. This should be a distinguished meeting. It should be a battle that attracts the attention of the world. We shouldn't be too hasty." Afterwards, the deity race's young god turned his head toward Qin Luoyin of the damning Pure Land and said with a smile, "Fairy Qin, let's go down too. We mustn't miss such an important event. Descend together." Some divine sons and saintesses echoed. Many people were nodding, and their words were similar. In the present age, who still recognizes the past of this planet that hasn't fallen and only knows the powerful Shilin clan? The deity race's young god had brought an unimaginable secret weapon to envelop everyone and descend together. In Earth's main space, Wei Lin laughed heartily and nodded toward the deity, race's young god. Then, he looked toward Chu Feng and said, "Do you see? This is the general trend." Chu Feng, who had been silent for a long time, was fearless. He said coldly, "Even if there are millions of people, I will go forward." He held the large halberd in one hand and pointed it at all the enemies. He stood alone in the sky and had to face everyone. His figure was a bit lonely. It was at this moment that a shout came from the Himalayas on the ground. "Our great snow mountain's secret realm won't surrender." The next moment, another group of people shouted, "Our Mount Wangwu's secret realm won't surrender." Chapter 538. Although there are millions of people, I will go forward. Chu Feng shouted these words, but there was also a sense of desolation. Standing alone in the sky, his figure looked very lonely. Only when such roars came from the secret realms of the Great Snow Mountain and Mount Wangwu did Chu Feng's body tremble. At this moment, he felt a warm current flooding his body. Standing alone in the sky, he faced the enemies from the outer realms and the hostility of those from the local secret realms. That kind of feeling was hard to describe. They really are brave people. Aren't you afraid of death? The Shilin clan divine son spoke. He stood in the sky and looked down at the various parts of the planet. The Shilin clan had once lived here, and now they had returned. But this was only a corner of the great curtain of return. Later on, more people would embark on the return journey. His expression turned grim as he said, "On this planet, if you're not a friend of the Shilin clan, then you must be an enemy." This was an undisguised threat. Surging with murderous intent, it gave everyone a warning and intimidated the evolvers in the earth and ocean. All friends of the Shilin clan will receive protection, and all enemies will be swept away. They will be erased from the mother planet and disappear completely. At this moment, the Shilin clan's divine son Wei Lin's words were not only filled with cold air, but they were also dripping with blood. He wanted to make heads roll down from this planet in order to intimidate and deter everyone. "Who can you protect?" Chu Feng spoke. He held the large halberd in his hand and erupted with soaring, killing intent. At this moment, the experts of the Shilin clan and machine race had finished adjusting within the multicolored maelstrom passage. They were about to cross over completely and walk out. In the distance, the warships of Penglai, the large ships of the Fangzhong secret realm, and the divine boats of Yingzhou had all appeared. They were rushing over at top speed to welcome the Shilin clan. Doubtlessly, they were expressing their loyalty. Rushing over in such a short time was a demonstration of their loyalty. At this moment, although Chu Feng was standing in place, the halberd in his hand erupted with brilliant light. It was like a beam of light piercing through the firmament and tearing apart the firmament. "Kill!" He roared loudly. His head of hair was disheveled, dancing about. His gaze was even more terrifying than lightning, even more resplendent. A wave of energy surged from his body. This was the fusion of killing intent, battle intent, and rage. It filled his chest, and at this moment, it surged violently. Divine Son Shilin had declared that he would protect all his friends and those who had pledged allegiance to him. In that case, he would sweep through and kill all the secret realm evolvers who had rushed over to pledge allegiance at the first instance. The people of Penglai, Fangzhong, and Yingzhou were all scared out of their wits. Their scalps went cold because they realized that they had come too early. That Shilin clan divine son hadn't truly crossed over successfully and hadn't taken a step out of the five-colored energy vortex. This made them scared out of their wits and terrified. "You defected too early." At this time, Chu Feng shouted and directly rushed over. In an instant, his entire body shone, and his pores gushed out dazzling divine light. The density of the energy was so high that it was frightening. The air exploded, and it was unknown how many times the speed of sound it was. It was too fast, and in the end, a golden mushroom cloud rose up from where he was standing. The terrifying energy was suffocating. "Space jump!" they shouted. The people of the three parties didn't want to fight him head-on because they knew they weren't his match. They didn't want to die here. None of the evolvers who had walked out of the secret realm was a match for Chu Feng. If they really dared to fight, they would die. However, space jump required positioning and a process. They hadn't made any prior preparations at all and thought that they would immediately see the Shilin clan and surrender. Who would have thought that there would be such an urgent and sudden situation? Boom! The most important thing was that Chu Feng was too fast and no one could react in time. His whole body was accompanied by a golden mushroom cloud. His energy was incomparable as he lifted his large halberd and directly smashed a warship into pieces. People were overwhelmed with shock. What kind of power was this? That was because this wasn't a secret art attack at all, but a direct barbaric charge. It was too terrifying. The people of Penglai screamed miserably. The people who had come to welcome the Shilin clan died miserably during the process of the warship exploding. Some disintegrated, some were annihilated, and some turned into a bloody mist. Chi! The large halberd glowed as Chu Feng rushed past. He swung it and hacked at the Fangzhong's Secret Realm's warship. Crack! The entire warship was cleaved into two. Some people died miserably, and some fell out with pale faces. Boom! At the same time, Chu Feng traversed the sky. His fist glowed and smashed at the Ingzhou divine ship on the other side. Purple chi boiled and surged forth. The peerless fist seal smashed the divine ship into pieces. No! The group of people cried out miserably. They were incomparably terrified. Who would have thought that they had come to surrender on behalf of the three secret realms to welcome the Shilin clan's powerful return would all die a violent death? Chu Feng was like a bolt of lightning as he flew through the area. The large halberd in his hand hacked out from time to time and killed those who had slipped through the net. Not a single one was spared, and their bodies and souls were destroyed. In the sky, Chu Feng stood with his halberd held horizontally. His hair was flying in the wind, and his body wasn't stained with blood. However, the sky behind him was scarlet. The warships and divine ships had been torn to pieces and were falling down, accompanied by blood and bones. He didn't say anything and only used his actions to deal with the Shilin clan. Weren't the so-called friends of the Shilin clan supposed to be protected? In the end, those who stood out were all annihilated. On Earth, there was a brief moment of silence. Then, angry roars broke out in several places. Chu Feng, you've repeatedly offended Penglai. You deserve to die. Demon Chu, you killed my abbot's son-in-law, and now you're slaughtering my clan. Do you really think no one can stop you? The Shilin clan's divine son is here, and so is the deity race's young god. You're going to face your calamity. At first, Chu Feng didn't want to pay attention to them, but he couldn't bear it anymore. You're iron-blooded to your own people, calling yourself a king, bowing to outsiders, and taking pride in your servants. You're all worthy of death. Chu Feng, you're courting death. At this moment, the people of the Shilin clan were furious. Chu Feng's methods were a slap in the face in front of everyone. He had killed their so-called friends in the first instance. Boom! The Shilin clan's divine son had fair skin and a feminine aura. He was the first to step out of the five-colored energy vortex and successfully cross over. Following closely behind him was his younger sister, Wei Xian. Even their appearances were similar, and they could be considered beautiful and moving. A total of 10 or so people from the Shilin clan had arrived. Each and every one of them was surging with murderous intent. Their pupils were indistinct, and all of them were staring at Chu Feng. As soon as Wei Lin gave the order, they would pounce and kill him. At the same time, the mechanical Vajra also came out with a dozen or so people. Their auras were terrifying, and all of them were made of metal, but they were emitting powerful life waves. It was rare that the Shilin clan's divine son, Wei Lin, restrained himself. He didn't get angry, nor did he attack. In the end, his expression became more and more peaceful, and even his words were abnormally calm. Since we're returning, then let's be splendid to the end and attract the attention of the world. We'll fight a decisive battle under the starry skies and kill you on the front lines as a sacrifice for our Shilin clan's return. Wei Lin said coldly. He agreed with the deity race's young god's earlier suggestion. He didn't rush into battle, but wanted to kill Chu Feng in front of everyone's eyes. He wanted to annihilate all the natives who dared to resist and announce the Shilin clan's return. You're right. The Earth's glory and splendor in the past are all false. Only the present battle can explain the problem. Brother Wei Lin, I'll first congratulate your Shilin clan for successfully returning home and setting foot on your homeland. At this moment, the deity race's young god's voice came from above the firmament. He took out a piece of snow-white bone. This was the deity race's ancestral bone. It belonged to the race's ancestors' frontal bone and was also the only divine object left behind after transforming into the Tao. Boom! In a split second, it was as if the heaven and earth had turned upside down. A strange phenomenon appeared over there. All the heavens offered sacrifices, all the races revered each other, and countless creatures knelt down as if they were welcoming a taboo character. That was the deity race's ancestor, a supreme expert. The only true bone left behind after transforming into the Tao was actually this terrifying. It protected the young god and a group of people as they descended. Of course, many people were still being crushed and coughed up blood, but the vast majority were unharmed. They were actually crossing over as a whole. Without a doubt, even if this bone was heaven-defying, it could only be used on visualization-level creatures. It couldn't bring experts of a higher realm to descend. That was because, under normal circumstances, only carefree realm beings were allowed to pass through. Now, it could already be considered heaven-defying to be able to bring beings of a higher realm in. The deity race's young god had another artifact on him to protect him. Because he was too powerful and his strength was too terrifying, he was worried that he would be killed by the Earth's domains. The white bone ancestral artifact formed a radiance that enveloped everyone. 200 experts entered the Earth's main space, and many of them were divine sons and saintesses. Shilin race's divine son, we've come to observe the ceremony. We congratulate the Shilin race on returning and once again becoming the master of this ancient planet. Ha! Brother Wei Lin, congratulations. The Shilin race is destined to create immortal glory once again. A group of people were congratulating him. At this moment, those from the Damling Pure Land also descended, and Qin Luoyin's carriage was also moving. She was using this as a pretext to cross over. In addition, Qin Luoyin also had an extraordinary treasure on her that could protect her and ensure her safety. In the sky, there seemed to be a group of celestial soldiers and generals shrouded in immortal mist. Moreover, they carried a terrifying energy aura as they directly appeared in the Earth's sky. This group of people descended, and their energy aura pervaded the air as mushroom clouds rolled. It was incomparably terrifying. Chu Feng's situation was worrying. Chapter 539. It had to be said that the appearance of the deity race's young god was too big. Leading a group of people, it was as if a mythical celestial court had come into being. Surrounding him were groups of divine sons and saintesses. The sky was filled with divine splendor, dazzling and terrifying. The young god himself stood in the center of a secret gold chariot. There were knife marks and arrow holes on the body of the chariot. It was somewhat damaged, proving that this chariot was once extraordinary and had been bestowed by a certain elder of the race. The deity race's young god was very tall. His body was glaring and blossoming with golden light. His pale golden blood chi was as vigorous as the sea and occasionally overflowed, intimidating people's hearts. He had a head full of golden hair as he stood proudly on the chariot, looking down on the world. There were other chariots around him, belonging to divine sons and saintesses from different galaxies. There were also people riding on beasts, wearing secret gold armor and holding divine weapons. This group of people had great origins. Walking together in a group like this they formed a great suppressive might. It was a type of intimidation to anyone. The Shilin clan's divine son Wei Lin cupped his hands and greeted the deity, race's young god. There was a smile on his fair and feminine face, and he was extremely polite. Even though the Shilin clan was very proud and their racial talents shook the starry skies, they had no advantage over the deity race. Welcome, young god. Welcome, young god. At this moment, it wasn't just Wei Lin and the machine race. Many figures from Earth rushed to the sky and saluted earnestly and passionately. These were descenders from Earth who had appeared earlier. There were divine sons, saintesses, and ordinary adventurers from the star passages. Now, they were all very respectful. Greetings, Fairy Chin. There were also people who respectfully saluted the group from Damung Pure Land who were slowly approaching from a distance. For a moment, this area was overflowing with lights and colors. All of them were young elites from the outer realms, and it was difficult to calm down. It was as if 100 birds were paying homage to a phoenix and feudal vassals were presenting themselves to their monarch. In the distance, Chu Feng stood alone in midair with a large halberd in his hand. He looked at them coldly and didn't flee even in the face of so many experts from the outer realms. The deity race's young god said with a smile, Wei Lin, choose a place. The Shilin clan's return can't be rash. We're all looking forward to your decisive battle with the natives here. With the world's attention and every race's witness, this shouldn't be a simple battle. Rather, it will become a grand meeting. I hope the Shilin clan will once again establish an immortal foundation on this planet. He suggested this because he secretly wanted to ask for profits from the relevant live streaming platforms. This was a very meaningful battle that he had promoted and was being watched by all parties. Because his identity was extraordinary, he could do this and negotiate with the relevant parties. Otherwise, if an ordinary divine son were to speak up, he would be looked down upon and ignored. That makes sense. It should be a grand event. He had a head of silver hair, and his eyes were bewitching. They flickered with a terrifying radiance. His name was Bo. Yes, this battle can't be rushed. It must be very formal. We are willing to witness the legendary rise of the Shilin clan and become one of the strongest races in the universe. Some people chimed in and wished the Shilin clan a glorious return. This was because it was very likely that they would need the Shilin clan's help in the future. This was Earth, the homeland where the Shilin clan had once lived. Their understanding was far more thorough than anyone else's. They knew where there were supreme Dao lands and world-shaking historical remains. They even knew how to open some places. These people had descended not to sightsee, but to search for opportunities and fight for fortunes. When the time came, they would most likely need the Shilin clan's help. Even the young god and a few high-ranking divine sons had said so. Naturally, the others nodded in succession and said that this would be a grand event. They were looking forward to watching a splendid battle and celebrating the Shilin clan's return. Chu Feng's expression became increasingly cold. After these people descended to Earth, they felt that everything was under their control and were standing one-sidedly on the Shilin clan's side. It could be said that the native evolver, Chu Feng, this fearless challenger, was now alone and ignored by the numerous divine sons and saintesses from the outer realms. The smile on Wei Lin's face grew wider and wider. Even his feminine aura was about to disappear. He also felt that it should be more formal. There should be a battle that everyone would pay attention to and use the form of a grand event to announce to the world that this place belonged to the Shilin clan. He nodded in agreement, and then looked toward Chu Feng with a faint smile and a wisp of coldness. Chu Feng, what do you think? Let's choose a more formal place. You and I will burn incense and bathe in order to carry out the orthodox battle. Yes, this matter will ferment in the starry sky for one day. When the time comes, there will be many people watching this battle. I've already informed them. The deity race's young god spoke with a carefree smile. That was because he had formally reached an agreement with some platforms that would give him astonishing benefits. He had the connections and the confidence to form such a situation and earn benefits. If someone else were to take the lead, those platforms wouldn't care. What do you think? Wei Lin asked again. Only now did many people's gazes turn toward Chu Feng. Just now, they had indeed ignored him and weren't paying attention to him at all. That was because the young god, the divine son of Shilin, and Qin Luoyin were present. Everyone unanimously believed that this was a dead end, and that Chu Feng couldn't survive. Could it be that he could compete with the top 10 characters of the universe's younger generation? That was impossible. Moreover, there were so many people here, and all of them were visualization-level divine sons and saintesses. If they were truly in danger, they could all attack together and crush Chu Feng without the slightest suspense. Aren't you afraid of shooting yourself in the foot? Chu Feng finally spoke. He had agreed. Then, he looked toward the deity race's young god and the few people of high status beside him. He also shot them a glance and revealed a chilly expression. On that day, the outer realms couldn't remain calm because the top-notch heavens I had been sent through a super wormhole to monitor Earth. This battle had been artificially promoted and promoted. The location of the battle was Kunlun. This was the place Wei Lin had chosen for the decisive battle. This place held great significance to Earth, as it was the ancestral root of a famed mountain. It was an exceptionally important place. Back in the day, a group of the most powerful beings on Earth resided here. Originally, many people were paying attention. Now, after a wave of publicity, almost all the vital planets in the starry sky knew about it. It could truly be said to be the center of attention. A distinguished meeting is about to begin. Friends from the Shilin clan are welcome to come and watch the battle. Wei Lin stood high in the sky as he spoke. His voice reverberated in all directions. This was for the native evolvers of Earth to hear. He was so ostentatious, powerful, and high profile in this great battle to intimidate the beings on this planet. Clearly, this battle was somewhat stifling. It had already changed its flavor, at least to the native evolvers. Everyone excuse me. I'm going to Mount Qinling to pick up an item. Very soon, I'll go to Kunlun to watch the battle. The deity race's young master laughed heartily and led some people away in an instant. The smile on Wei Lin's face didn't diminish, but a wisp of coldness appeared in the depths of his eyes. He really hoped these people would reap some benefits on Earth, but he had no way to stop the deity race's young god from coming. Then, the people from damning Pure Land left. They didn't cause trouble for Chu Feng. Clearly, they wanted to wait until the decisive battle in Kunlun. There were also some divine sons and saintesses who left in a hurry. They all had their own goals and wanted to explore first. Chu Feng, you only have one day to say goodbye to your family and friends. After today, your life will no longer belong to you. At this moment, the mechanical Vajra spoke in a very powerful manner. He was even more powerful than the Shilin clan's divine son. To this, Chu Feng only had one sentence: a pile of scrap metal. Then, he turned around and left. He had one day to consider some matters. Tomorrow, a decisive battle would be held at Mount Kunlun. At this moment, the starry skies were boiling. This time, it wasn't just the Origin Beast platform that was paying attention. The deity race's young god had contacted a few top-notch clans to push this matter forward together. Ancestor, I've already pushed this matter forward. Now, everyone in the starry skies knows about it. Soon, Chu Feng will fall into a desperate situation. We'll see if the remnants of Earth from back then will come to save him. If they appear nearby, it'll depend on your methods. At this moment, the young god was secretly contacting people from the deity race. His eyes were cold, and his face was full of ruthlessness. By pushing this matter forward, he also wanted to ambush the saints who had fled from Earth back then. Oh, don't be careless. If by any chance you juniors capsize in that declining land, then it'll be a big joke. You can't ambush those people and instead sink into depravity. That'll be very laughable. In the photon computer, a vague silhouette emitted a faint voice. It was like the weeping of a ghost. The voice was very unpleasant and frightening. After ending the secret conversation, the deity race's young god brought people to Mount Qinling and searched according to an ancient map. In the end, He was incomparably angry and said, "Damn it, someone speculated that the robbery induction breathing technique might be hidden here. In the end, it actually isn't here." On this day, Earth was very restless. There were people probing the vicinity of many famed mountains. Even outer realm evolvers appeared in the deserts, grasslands, and tropical rainforests. They were exploring the way and opening up a buried ancient cave residence, according to some ancient maps. Chu Feng didn't return to Mount Longhu, nor did he go to see his parents and friends. Instead, he found a place to sit cross-legged and meditate on a cliff, adjusting himself to his peak state. In this battle, he could only win and not lose. He wouldn't leave himself a way out. He had no other choice. Should I evolve again? Chu Feng took out the cinnabar fruit. He still had the great medicine he had obtained from Mount Tai's altar and could still evolve. However, the six-path reincarnation pill hadn't arrived yet. He was worried that if he were to evolve again, it might cause a crack in his evolutionary foundation because the evolution was too frequent and violent. Just this morning, he had advanced and completed a transformation. He had never heard of someone evolving repeatedly in a single day. If this were the outer realm, it would be purely courting death. If it were just one party, he wouldn't feel so pressured. This was a group of experts, and even the deity race's young god had come. Moreover, it was Qin Luoyin, the heaven's pride of the universe's top 10 young generation. Within Chu Feng's body, the black and white grinding stone slowly rotated. He sensed it carefully and then swallowed an ordinary mutant fruit. In a split second, the medicine and energy were all broken down by the grinding stone and rapidly absorbed. Amen. It's even more extraordinary than I imagined. Chu Feng stood up. He had some understanding and a certain amount of confidence. A day passed in the blink of an eye. In the starry skies, all parties were becoming increasingly noisy. Countless people were waiting on the various platforms. The great decisive battle promoted by the deity race's young god naturally attracted a large number of people's attention. Moreover, Chu Feng and the Shilin clan's divine son were themselves topics of discussion. Moreover, the origin of their bloodlines pointed to Earth, which made it even more interesting. The planet that was once ranked 11th in the universe once again entered the universe's eyes. Today, it was magnified and focused on, attracting the attention of every power. Much of Kunlun's terrain was suddenly magnified and displayed in the starry skies for everyone to see. Back then, the Sage Master lived there for a period of time. Princess Yao Yao often lived in Kunlun in the past. Some people were talking about old matters. Clearly, even some living fossil-level existences were alarmed and stood out to pay attention to this battle. Otherwise, ordinary people wouldn't know about these matters. Time was up. Many divine sons and saintesses appeared in front of Mount Kunlun. This was a distinguished meeting and also a great decisive battle. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.